quiet work already in motion. Work continues, even after you've gone. The way forward, kept ready. Every step, every turn, prepared long before you arrive. When your day ends, others begin theirs.
Morning. Today is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. It's 10 a.m. We're in the city chambers and I call the city commission regular meeting to order. Commissioners present are Commissioner Duval, Commissioner Stokes, Mayor Emmerich, Vice Mayor Langdon, and Commissioner Petro. There is a quorum present for this meeting. Also present are City Manager Fletcher, City Attorney Fuino, City Clerk Faust, Board Specialist Linder, Police Chief Garrison, and Deputy Chief Hurley's in the back. And I'm going to call on a special guest, Mr. Dominic Segreto. Would you lead us in the pledge, sir, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to request a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Stokes to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by Vice Mayor. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. City Clerk, public comment.
Yes, I have Scott Smith, followed by Tim Doyle.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Scott Smith, and I'm the Vice President of the Southwest Florida PBA, the union that represents the men and women of the Northport Police Department. Last year, this commission was aggressively pursuing funding for a replacement of the Northport Police Department headquarters to replace an outdated and overcrowded building. During this process, this commission held numerous town hall meetings committing to this required project. The message was clear. If the referendum did not pass, you folks said, you will find the funding for this building. And it would be much more costly. Since the referendum and subsequent vote did not pass, this commission has not met the promise to continue this process or your commitment. Instead, this has been placed in an unfunded status and forgotten about. But we in the union have not forgotten. There is no need to explain why this facility is needed. It is well documented. The Chief of Police has made this a priority since his first day in office, and you are all aware of the need and have seen the conditions firsthand. There are numerous consultants that have also agreed that this facility is in need to be changed and changed now. During this past year, this problem has only gotten worse, and it will continue to worsen. You can continue to put a Band-Aid on the current facility and the issues that it presents and waste money that would probably be better spent on a new facility. We consider this a health and safety issue now. This item must be brought to the table, and a solution needs to be found. This cannot wait years to address. This is a fundamental responsibility of this commission to problem solve this and fix it. The cost continues to rise, and the further this item is buried, the worse it will be later. This problem is not going to go away. Please do not allow this to be another Price Boulevard. We request that you act now. As a union, we are going to play a more active role in ensuring that this stays out there and that this is not buried any further. This past year has no results, and we are expecting from your commission to actually address this. So please, we request that you start taking this up now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I guess I'm going to start off where I left off yesterday. I wouldn't even be in this room today if that meeting was accepted by you people. I don't know if you looked in your records, Miss Luke's records or anybody's records, but that meeting happened. An apology. Admitting wrong. You can never move forward until you admit you have a problem. I've always supported the current police chief, as I felt he did do training. I felt he did take everything, and he probably did an internal investigation and found out everything I said was true. So I have supported him. But you guys, I've said it in the room before, you guys are placeholders. Doesn't matter who's in these seats coming and going. My problem's still with the city of Northport. That's never been resolved. So it doesn't matter who's up there. I will always come to these meetings. And what was the offer made to you in that room a few years back? What was it? A public apology. By $5,000 you stole from me. You guys are here complaining about pumps you have to put in the building. You know how many restaurants I've built? I had to put booster pumps in all of them. I had manholes outside with tanks because the water company couldn't give me enough pressure. I know all about that. I can probably talk about any topic in this room. I want fairness in our government. You know that? I wouldn't even be here if you took that. Wouldn't cost the taxpayer nothing. You guys are always talking about what costs the taxpayer money. The first time I walked back in this room, after this recent thing, that would have never happened because I wouldn't even been living there if you would have sold me the piece of property I wanted to buy, and I would have built a new house. And remember, the police chief, the former police chief, told me to move out of town. So I was ordered by you people to move out of town. And I still say the police department back then was a Pinkerton guard. It was protecting a corporation. It was protecting you. And I don't even know if Mr. Fletcher knows, but his position was involved in this. And he might have his job also because of this situation. Because the town manager was involved with the police chief. I don't know how much you guys looked into this, but I sit here all the time. You don't see no affidavits. You see me upset. You see me say the same thing. You know why? Because when the wound is cut, you never forget. Ball's in your court, boys.
That's on there.
Thank you. Announcements, City Clerk?
The current vacancies for the following boards and committees include Art Advisory Board, Auditor Selection Committee, Charter Review Advisory Board, Citizen Tax Oversight Committee, Community Economic Development Advisory Board, Debt Management Committee, Environmental Advisory Board, Historic and Cultural Advisory Board, Joint Management Advisory Board, Police Officers Pension Trust Fund Board of Trustees, Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Planning and Zoning Advisory Board, and Veterans Park Advisory Committee. Sarasota County Advisory Council vacancies include one resident of Northport to serve on the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization Citizen Advisory Committee and one resident of Northport to serve on the Citizens Oversight Committee for Schools Facility Planning. If anyone would like more information, please see the City Clerk's office. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. City Manager, has any items been pulled?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Public comment?
Sam Doyle?
I guess I want to specifically talk about consent item E 260524. Approval of the application of State of Florida Department of Transportation SBIRT grant for highway safety funds in the amount of $100,000 for the Northport Police Interstate Speed Enforcement, and authorize the city manager or the mayor as applicant under the city charter to excuse the funds. So I have some comments on this. It's $100,000. We'll pay the police department to go sit on the highway and give out tickets. This is pay-to-play circumstance. I don't know how the state fines are divvied up on the highway, but this is a money-making scheme to me. I'm not saying it's not needed. I'm not saying that speeding is not a problem. All I'm saying is every time someone in this country hops in a car, they become a criminal. You have criminalized the cars. You have made felons out of people driving cars, just driving back and forth to work. You make them pay outrageous fees to insurance companies. And again, I understand you have the ability to charge me taxes and fees, okay? I don't know how you have the ability to make me do business with a private insurance company. That's not what the government was put here to do. Every time a ticket's given out under this $100,000, someone's insurance is gonna go up. What people have to pay is ridiculous. We have to stop turning the car into a it's a funding mechanism for the government now. Meanwhile, I had to go get a police report at the police station. 4 people walked into that room, all got scammed. I want the police department to go after the scammers. I want the people who do bad to people to go to jail. My brother was run over, killed by a car. I know exactly what a car can do. You know what I mean? I grew up above a funeral home. I say this because that gives me credibility. I've seen it my whole life. I've seen the kids. I've seen the adults. I've seen my family members. And you know what I've seen over those years? All the laws change. All the laws turn the drivers into felons. And you know what I've noticed? People are still being killed on the street. It hasn't helped a darn thing, if you ask me. It's broken up families. It makes people lose their homes because they don't go to work. So I'm not saying whether to do it or not. It's $100,000 to the town. But we got to go start going after criminals and not people driving cars.
Thank you. I'm gonna request a motion.
Make it.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the items in the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Duval to approve the items in the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Vice Mayor. Please vote. That passes 5-0. Moving on to public hearings, ordinance number 2026-08. And I request a motion to direct the city clerk to read by title only.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor to direct the city clerk to read by title only, made by Commissioner Stokes, seconded by Vice Mayor. Please vote. That passes 5-0. City clerk.
Ordinance number 2026-08, an ordinance of the City of Northport, Florida, adopting the fiscal year 2026 through fiscal year 2030 5-year schedule of capital improvement components of the capital improvement element of the City of Northport Comprehensive Plan, adopting by reference the Sarasota County School District 2024 through 2025 5-year district facilities work plan, providing for findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have Ms. Adriana Silva, our Planner 2 from our Development Services Department, to lead us through the discussion. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Adriana Silva. Today, we are discussing ordinance number 2026-08. The capital improvements element table 10-1 of the 5-year schedule of capital improvement components within the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan identifies the city's capital projects necessary for implementation and maintenance of the level of service standards adopted in the comprehensive plan. Florida Statute Section 163.31773B requires that local governments review and update the CIE of the comprehensive plan on an annual basis. It also enables modifications to the capital improvement schedule without a text amendment to the comprehensive plan by means of adoption of an ordinance. This ordinance updates funding figures for each public facility type contained within CIE Table 10-1 based on the fiscal year 2026-2030 Capital Improvements Program adopted by City Commission on September 18, 2025. The proposed ordinance also revises CIE Policy 5.3, adopting by reference the Sarasota County School District 2024-2025 5-year district facilities work plan adopted by the Sarasota County School Board, as required by the Capital Improvements Element Policy 5.3 of the city's comprehensive plan and the interlocal agreement with the Sarasota County School Board. Staff does recommend approval of ordinance number 2026-08 to fulfill statutory requirements for annual review and update of the capital improvement schedule of the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions, comments? I see nothing. Public comment, city clerk?
There is none.
All right, moving on, I request a motion.
I'll make it.
Go ahead.
I move to continue ordinance number 2026-08 to second reading on April 21st, 2026.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor made by the vice mayor to continue ordinance number 2026-08 to second reading on April 21st, 2026, seconded by Commissioner Stokes. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to ordinance number 2026-10. I request a motion to direct the city clerk to read by title only. Have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Stokes.
Section.
To direct the city clerk to read by title only, seconded by Commissioner Petro. Please vote. That passes 5-0. City clerk?
Ordinance number 2026-10, an ordinance of the City of Northport, Florida relating to impact fee collection and the impact fee deferral program, amending and renumbering Chapter 58 of the Code of the City of Northport, Florida, providing for impact fees, purpose and authority, definitions, payment of fees, impact fee schedules, exemptions, appeals, reporting and reviewing of fees, refunds, developer reimbursement and credits, amending the deferral program, providing for eligible development timing of application, application contents, agreement and payment schedule, providing for findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. City manager, this is your item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are joined today by Mr. Randy Bolin, our impact fee administrator, to lead us through a staff presentation. Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Commission. Good morning, City Manager. Before you is Ordinance 2610. This ordinance is a reworked version of Ordinance 2511 and reflects Commission directives on the following policy points: the removal of the impact fee incentive program, not moving forward with a affordable housing or government use exemption, creating more refined program requirements for the deferral program and expanding possible eligibility, as well as providing additional options for security for the city if fees are not paid, and codifies best practices to ensure fee collection continues in the most professional manner possible. Staff has provided a brief presentation on the highlights of the changes and is able to go over that if the Commission would like, and staff is available for questions.
Thank you. Commission questions, comments? Vice Mayor?
How many times has the deferral, impact fee deferral program been used in the past 5 years?
There was one application when it was first created for the hotel, but the hotel did not completely go through that process. So other than that, no one has used it.
City Clerk, any public comment?
Yes, Tim Doyle?
This is an important subject. You guys were talking about it yesterday. Impact fees protect me. Impact fees protect the people building the buildings, protects all of you. I don't know what the right numbers are or any of this stuff, but the deferral program sounded like something that should be in place, even if no one ever used it. Because money's tight. Money's gonna get even tighter down here on the road with everything going on in our country. And some of these people who might wanna come here and develop and move their businesses or what have you, might not have all the cash up front or the financing. This financing is gonna dry up real quick here. So I think there should be some kind of deferral program, and I think it should be communicated to some people, like the gentleman who was here yesterday, so he could use that in his business. So I don't know what the right answers for all these things is, but you have to have programs like this to bring in business. We don't need a Solyndra to come to our town and take advantage of these tax credits and move out. And then we get stuck with big factory and a whole bunch of bills they never paid. I do understand that part of it too. I don't know if you guys. So there's a fine line here, not getting taken advantage of, but you have to have something to entice people to come here besides the nice weather and the boating community. Thank you.
That's all, Mayor.
And I'm gonna close this public hearing and request a motion. Anybody? Go ahead.
Let's see which one is it. I move to continue ordinance number 2026-10 to second reading on April 21st, 2026.
I have a motion on the floor to continue ordinance number 2026-10 to second reading on April 21st, 2026, made by Commissioner Petro. Do I have a second? I'll second. So I've seconded. Anything to that? Please vote. And that passes 3-2. Moving on to ordinance number 2026-12. Request a motion to have the city clerk read by title only.
So moved.
I have a motion on the floor made by Vice Mayor to direct the city clerk to read by title only. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Stokes. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. City Clerk.
Ordinance number 2026-12, an ordinance of the City of Northport, Florida, amending the Code of the City of Northport, Florida, Chapter 4, Boards and Committees to create Article 8, Northport Youth Council, providing for findings, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. And this is your item, City Clerk.
Yes, in October, Commissioner, at the time it was Commissioner, I believe, Commissioner Langdon and I were approached by Liz Mena of the Boys and Girls Club and Omi Patel of the Star Leadership Training Program to create a youth council here in the city of Northport. We did previously have one. This board is actually quite different than the last one that we had. The last one really, I think, mostly focused on economic development. I want to say their staff liaison was in the economic development. This board is going to focus more on a project for the city, as well as bridging the gap between the STAR student or students in the high schools and the commission. We do have Liz and Omi here to answer some questions that the commission will have today.
Right. Commission questions? Anyone? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm delighted to see this ordinance finally come before this body. And I'm really pleased with the the sort of mission statement and the balance between advisory and action. I think my hope was that this would be an action-oriented committee. So I would love if you have, with the mayor's leave, if you'd like to just talk a little bit about it, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Of course, of the difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. Liz Mena here from the Boys and Girls Club. So I think a big part of why we're so thrilled to be able to support fully this all-youth advisory council in the city of Northport. It's a really amazing gap right now that we have a presence with the new Gene Matthews Boys and Girls Club. As you know, was impacted by one of our hurricanes. We finally have opened our amazing building and club in the presence of city of Northport. And so we believe that a all-youth board here in the city of Northport would be an amazing way to kind of have students pilot from our STAR Students Training, Student Seeking Active Roles program, being able to take that next level in their leadership and local engagement, being able to do that here now with a youth board advisory council. And the reason why we also believe so strongly in it being an advisory council also is we really fundamentally believe that all of our students should have a seat at the table when it comes to engaging with community leaders such as yourselves, elected officials, and hopefully one day have that feeling of responsibility that they can see themselves in this city as well as like throughout the county of Sarasota. So that's why we fundamentally believe that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just say in closing, I was so impressed with all of the young people that I met in this progress. And shame on me, I wasn't really aware of the STAR program, and so I appreciate that education as well. And I certainly hope in my lifetime I see one of you up here. And I don't have a ton of years left, so.
Yeah, we're thrilled.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There was a question that I had, and this might be for the city clerk. In the backup, it stated that you were looking for students ages, I believe it was 14 to 18, specifically from the high school. Why wasn't the middle school involved if we had 14-year-old students in the middle school that may want to be part of this board?
I believe this is the age, is this the age for students to be able to be in the STAR program? And they are high school students, the 14-year-olds?
Primarily.
So they're ninth graders, they're just starting high school.
But what if they're 14 and they're an 8-year-old, in 8th grade? You know, why would they be precluded, is what I'm saying. Why couldn't we just have the age bracket 14 to 18 rather than high school only, you know?
I think it's because we're trying to collaborate with the STAR program. So if their program currently is for high school students, so they'll go through the STAR training program, and then once they've graduated that, then they're eligible to be on this board.
Okay, I just
So
wanted
it
to
kind of
know.
goes hand in hand.
I wanted to know what those parameters stood for, because I wanted to make it as available to as many students as possible, so. Commissioner Petro, you're up.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. No question, just a compliment. I'm delighted to see young people being involved in the community and to see this bridge being connected to the city government and community and bringing young people into this exposure. It is delighting to see that, so I appreciate all the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited. Thank you so much.
All right, public comment.
Kiwanis Club. Commissioners, in 2006, my daughter Cheyenne was a member of the city's Youth Opportunities Advisory Board. After the death of 6-year-old Coral Rose Fullwood, the YOAB members wanted to collect money to buy a holiday for Coral Rose's young siblings. The city commissioner stopped the board and told them they were only advisory members. These students went to FLC with commissioners, served as interns, collected letters in support of a hospital, traveled to Tallahassee and Orlando with city officials. However, they were told they couldn't help a family in the city after a horrific murder. Those commissioners didn't understand these students wanted to be active. They didn't just want to tell commissioners how they felt, they wanted to take action. Please consider this when offering an agenda to this group of young critical thinkers. One great goal for them could be to have them work with Keep Sarasota Beautiful and the city's road and drainage district to have a community-wide cleanup in October for Make a Difference Day. They could take action by assigning scouting groups, church youth groups, and other nonprofits to clean parks, the underpass at Toledo Blade, and other public areas. They could host a huge thank you picnic in the park supported by the city. Without hands-on activities, this board will fizzle out because teens don't want to be still. They want to make a difference and they need community service hours to graduate. This is why I would add one or more student from each school suggested and add 8th graders from Woodland, Imagine, and Heron Creek Middle Schools because that's a great age to get them involved in leadership roles like this youth board. Thank you for considering it. In person, I have Dominic Segreto, followed by Savannah Wimmer and Omi Patel.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Dominic Segreto, and I'm here today to speak in support of Ordinance 2026-12 and the reestablishment of the Northport Youth Council. This isn't a new idea for our city. We've been here before. Years ago, the Youth Opportunity Advisory Board gave students a real stake in this community, and those students took advantage of the opportunities afforded to them through the board. They showed up for ribbon cuttings and civic events. They were engaged, they were passionate, and they made a difference. But when the board's role was narrowed to strictly advisory, students lost interest and it dissolved. A decade later, the concept came back, but disagreements over structure kept it from moving forward. What's different now is that we have an established partner ready to help make this work. The Gene Matthews Boys and Girls Club and the STAR program provide an infrastructure that didn't exist in previous iterations. Students coming through the program are already being equipped with the foundational skills that prepare them to participate meaningfully in local government right here in Northport. This commission has an opportunity to capitalize on that pipeline and channel those prepared young leaders directly into civic service. Today, we have another chance to get this right, and I believe this ordinance does. It brings together students from Northport High, Imagine, the future Bowen Park High, homeschoolers, and the community at large. It creates a council with a real purpose, advising this commission on youth issues, promoting civic engagement, and identifying community projects that students can lead. What makes this ordinance particularly compelling is the breadth of responsibility and entrust to these students. They'd be synthesizing feedback from their peers, formulating recommendations on municipal matters, and identifying tangible issues affecting youth in the community. That kind of substantive civic participation cultivates leadership, sharpens critical thinking, and fosters a genuine sense of stewardship over the community that they're growing up in. These are the residents, the voters, and frankly, the future commissioners of the city of Northport. Investing in their civic development now is crucial and pragmatic.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Savannah Wilmer. I'm a junior at Northport High School, and I graduated from STAR the summer before my freshman year. After graduating from STAR, students are given the opportunity to join an advisory board. I chose to serve on the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, also known as SSAC. The STAR, or Students Taking Active Roles Leadership Training Program, has helped me grow in ways that directly prepare me for my position as a student representative on SSAC. During the 10-week STAR sessions with the Boys and Girls Clubs of Sarasota and DeSoto counties, I participated in luncheons to speak with government and community representatives, confidence workshops, and public speaking exercises. This program has strengthened my public speaking skills and given me the confidence to speak in settings like this. It has also helped me become more comfortable connecting with others, including community leaders and representatives. Through STAR, I have learned how to lead in a way that is both effective and respectful, making sure everyone has the opportunity to contribute while still moving forward and getting things accomplished. SSAC holds an annual forum with the superintendent, students from all over Sarasota County, and county experts. One of the topics we discussed at our forum a couple years ago was student voices in schools. Through our discussion in the forum, our meetings with the superintendent, we were able to implement principal clubs or student advisory councils within schools to help keep student voices at the forefront of administrators' minds. In the same way SSAC has helped students use their voices to make change in their schools, I believe that a youth advisory board would help our youth make meaningful change in the Northport community. My experience serving on the council has shown me how valuable student input can be when it comes to making decisions that affect us directly. A youth board would benefit Northport by giving young people a real voice in decisions that directly affect their lives, instead of leaving them feeling ignored or dismissed. Too often, youth perspectives are overlooked simply because of their age, even though they experience the community in their own unique and valuable ways. A youth board changes that by creating a space where their ideas are heard, respected, and acted on. This not only leads to better, more inclusive decisions, but also builds confidence, leadership skills, and a stronger connection between young people and our community. Thank you for allowing me to share my experiences. I truly believe that any opportunity to amplify youth voices strengthens our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I was 16 years old when Ms. Liz and I approached City Commissioner at the time, Ms. Langdon, and City Clerk, Ms. Faust, with the idea of the Youth Council. I am here now today to speak in support of the ordinance establishing the Northport Youth Council as an advisory board through the City of Northport. Cities do not become stronger by accident. They become stronger when they invest in the people who will one day lead them. That is why this ordinance is imperative. A youth advisory council is more than a program. It is a formal pathway for students to take their leadership skills to the next level by engaging directly with their community. The Students Taking Active Roles or STAR leadership training program through the Boys and Girls Club of Sarasota and DeSoto counties prepares students exactly for this kind of engagement. STAR is a 10-week leadership program where students learn to run meeting using Robert's Rules of Order, communicate professionally with elected officials, plan and execute service projects, track measurable outcomes, and work collaboratively to achieve community goals. As a student trainer myself, who is helping every single cohort through the Gene Matthews Club learn such rules, we project and track measurable outcomes. By the end of the program, participants are ready to serve as full contributing members on the advisory board. In my experience, when young people are given a seat at the table, they do not just benefit themselves. They bring fresh perspective. They build civic responsibility. They become more likely to volunteer, stay engaged, and take ownership in the community around them. Today, as a junior in high school serving on the City of Northport's Park and Recreation Advisory Board, I have seen firsthand how young people, when given the right tools and support, can bring energy, ideas, and meaningful contributions to local government. The Youth Advisory Council has the full support of the Boys and Girls Club and a clear framework for success. With this foundation, this council offers structure, longevity, and meaningful opportunities to empower students today while preparing them to lead tomorrow. Northport is a growing city, and growth is not just measured in roads, buildings, or budgets. It is measured by whether we are preparing the next generation to carry the city forward with wisdom, service, and pride. This ordinance gives us the chance to do exactly just that. Today, I ask you to support the Northport Youth Advisory Council and the young people of Northport who are not only the city's future, but an important part of its present. Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
I have Joan Morgan and Tim Doyle.
Hey, good morning. Why don't you all leave and just let them take over? It's our future guys. They're here. They've come. They've arrived. Okay? I failed in this measure. Back in 1972, when Gene Matthews and his family and we arrived in Northport, and love that man, okay? We worked on things like that. We had the pizzas ready for them at the old City Hall, okay? But they never showed up because you know what we lacked? Number one, the fact that we were at the old City Hall, not across the street at the Morgan Center and things like that, so they couldn't make it there from the high school, no transportation. And number two, what you've said, we didn't give them action. We didn't give them anything but the pizza, you know, and say, hey, we're going to put you on here and it's going to look good. These guys want action. These guys are our future. I have never been more impressed with the students of DeFi, Teen Court, the people that we know from the Boys and Girls Club, and that Boys and Girls Club, if you haven't seen the new one, get in there, see it. It is phenomenal. They're not just placing people and kids until their parents come. It's a program. It's a place for them to mature, develop, and make it their place. God bless our young people. God bless what they're doing. Thank you for being part of this, and give them the action. They need action. Another thing where I started was the having them be head of the city for a day, you know, kind of like student government day and that's been ended. I'd like to see these guys take it over. I mean, before they take it over for real, okay? All right, okay, they're phenomenal, and they do have the background, and they know how to do PowerPoint, they know how to do all these things, and they study, and God bless them, and thank you for doing this.
Obviously, I support this. You know, the kids got to get involved or they're going to find something else to do. You've heard me say that before on a lot of this stuff. You have to have something for them. How are they going to make good decisions when they're 36 and become president, or 40, or 45? You learn by your lives. You learn by seeing, you learn by doing. And you have to learn by interacting with other people. So something like this really sets the foundation for the future leaders, as you will want to call them, for our community and country. So I support this fully. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to close this public hearing and request a motion.
I would be delighted to make it, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
I move to continue ordinance number 2026-12 to second reading on April 21st, 2026.
My pleasure to second it.
I have a motion on the floor made by Vice Mayor to continue ordinance number 2026-12 to second reading on April 21st, 2026. That has been seconded by Commissioner Stokes. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to resolution number 2026-R-22. City Clerk, can you read by title only, please?
Resolution number 2026-R-22, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Northport, Florida, amending City Commission Policy number 2021-03 related to the rules of decorum and rules of order and rules of decorum for boards, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. This is also your item.
Yes. The part of this policy that we changed, there was actually a couple things, but the main one is we changed the parameters for consensus to just be majority for a consensus to pass instead of it being unanimous during workshops. And that was based off of the conversation that was had during the strategic planning session. And then we also changed other things just to be in, to coincide with what we will be having in our code, and that's to change from a recording secretary to a board specialist, and to remove the zoning board of appeals and change that to a zoning hearing officer.
Commission, questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think this is a good change. I mean, it helps give staff direction, and you know, it doesn't need to be a unanimous thing, in my opinion. I like the idea that, you know, they get a feel for how each of us commissioners feel on particular issues, and it'll help give them the direction they need. So I think this is fine. That's it, sir.
Thank you. Public comment?
Cheryl Cook. After the November 2016 election, our city was guided by an elected board heavily influenced by a California community organizer. That period was marked by procedural missteps and actions seemingly meant to confuse the public, including the 2018 charter replacement, which fully superseded the 1959 charter and was decided by voters in explicit referendum language. The question of whether consensus must be by majority or unanimous approval never arose until the very start of the November 22, 2016 meeting, when the then ceremonial mayor explicitly stated that consensus was to be unanimous, a directive that was thereafter followed by the elected board without any questions asked or clarifications made. As the former city attorney seemed to have followed, practice makes policy. The actions being asked of the commission today address exactly what was missing on the November 22, 2016 clarification as to what comprises a consensus. For nearly 10 years and through 5 different commission changes, decisions have been made without resolving this simple yet fundamental question, one that should have been challenged at the very first meeting. There was no real need for clarification before the ceremonial mayor's November 22, 2016 statement, as consensus is as Normal, a part of everyday procedure as breathing. Today's action is long overdue and critical for transparency, accountability, and proper governance. In person, I have Tim Doyle.
Rules of order in this room are very important for everybody. They need to be followed. And when we have lawyers in the room, they should know the rules and decorum of this room and should call them out when they're not being followed. I saw the former lawyer do that in this room before when things were done wrong. So I support this, and that's all I'm gonna say on the subject.
All right, I'm gonna close this public hearing and request a motion.
I'll make it.
Go ahead.
Move to adopt resolution 2026-R-22 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Stokes to adopt resolution number 2026-R-22 as presented, seconded by Commissioner Duval. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to resolution number 2026-R-08. City Clerk, can you read by title only?
Resolution number 2026-R-08, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Northport, Florida, identifying an inventory list of city-owned real property sites that are appropriate for use as affordable housing, providing for incorporation of recitals, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. City Manager, this is your item, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are joined by Ms. Adriana Silva, our planner 2, and she has a staff presentation for the item. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Adriana Silva. Today we'll be discussing resolution number 2026-R-08 regarding the surplus properties list. Florida statutes section 166.0451 requires that by October 1st, 2023, and every 3 years thereafter, each municipality shall prepare an inventory list of all real properties within its jurisdiction to which the municipality or any dependent special district within its boundaries holds fee simple title, which is appropriate for use as affordable housing. The initial inventory list was approved by resolution number 2007-R-48 on November 13, 2007, and updated by resolution number 2020-R-31 on November 24th, 2020. During City Commission workshop held on May 5th, 2025, the Commission reviewed the initial inventory list, and at City Commission regular meeting on June 10th, 2025, the Commission made a motion to continue the resolution number 2026-R-33 to a date to be determined and to direct the City Manager to further review and research using planning to include but not limited to public use and potential sale of properties for general use. In accordance with state statute, staff has reviewed the list of all real city-owned properties and identified a total of 51 properties that are appropriate for use for affordable housing. All city departments have reviewed this list and removed any properties deemed necessary for public improvement projects, including properties adjacent to existing facilities that may serve future expansion or future capital improvements. Properties were identified as appropriate for affordable housing upon review of the underlying zoning district. This inventory list identifies properties that are appropriate for affordable housing, but does not restrict the use of these properties for any other use or to affordable housing only. This slide just is to note that section 43 of chapter 2023-17 provides that section 2 of the statute expires July 1st, 2026, and it simply lists out affordable housing mechanisms that may be used for properties on this list. However, future development of any parcel must comply with the regulations of the underlying zoning district and all Unified Land Development Code development standards. Resolution, once approved, the list will be placed on the city's website for public accessibility in accordance with Florida statute section 166.0451. And the resolution number 2026-R-08 has been reviewed by the city attorney and is legally correct to form. And resolution number 2026-R-08 was provided to the city clerk's office on March 24th, 2026 for signature, subject to city commission approval. Staff recommends approval of resolution number 2026-R-08 as presented. The properties on this inventory list are, again, not required to be used solely for affordable housing. And this presentation does consist of 55 slides, including the 51 properties that are identified on the inventory list. This is the layout for each property, showing the address, the general location, the future land use zoning on the site, whether or not there is a flood zone present, and any other environmental concerns such as wetlands or scrub jay properties. And this is available for review if commission has any questions regarding a particular property. Thank you.
Commission questions? Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple. You mentioned that for a property to qualify as appropriate for affordable housing, it needs to conform to zoning. Yeah. Is there anything else that would cause staff to put a property on being appropriate for affordable versus not?
So this list went around to all departments, and we removed any lists and any properties that would be beneficial for the expansion or public use of the city. The appropriate for affordable housing was based on the underlying zoning district, and then eliminating anything that would be potential benefit to the city. And then it would have to be in compliance with all of the development standards of the ULDC to that parcel.
My second question is, how does the process work? So we have a list of properties appropriate for affordable housing. We put it up on our website. Any developer can buy them? Are they donated?
So this list is simply to identify the properties that are appropriate. So it would still have to undergo the city's proper process for purchasing a city-owned property. It could be used however the real estate process goes in the city. I'm not sure if there's anyone that would like to speak to the process.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, if a developer buys a property, and our intention is that it be probably rehabbed, I'm guessing, and sold as affordable, how do we ensure that indeed it is affordable, and how do we define affordable?
So there's two different, she's asking two different questions.
Yes, I can answer the second, the second part of the question concerning if a developer wants to purchase the property. So per the statute, there is required to be some restrictions on the land that they have to ensure, that would be included in the deed, that it has to meet that affordable housing. And that is in the statute, let's see. Yeah, I know.
A percentage of AMI is what I'm assuming, yeah?
Yes, that is correct. So you would have to put that restriction on the land itself in the deed that it had to be used for affordable housing. So they couldn't just purchase it and say, you know, we're going to do this or that. It has to maintain that compliance.
So this section 2 of Florida Statute 166 lists different mechanisms that's available for affordable housing, which authorizes the city to use those, where you can do a deed restriction on the land if the city so chooses, to make sure that that property is sold with the intent for affordable housing. So some of the options for the properties on the list would be to do a purchase, a swap, or a donation in accordance with the city commission policies. So policy 2023-01 has land use restrictive covenants. And I do understand that the city is offering the option for some property owners to swap properties with the city if we have a better public use for the property that they have.
Thank you for that. And then how do we police that? And is that why you're up here, Mr. Speaks? I mean, how do we make sure a developer then doesn't put it on the market for $450,000?
Sure, so the city does have a policy, there's an administrative policy that handles the inventory, disposal, and acquisition of real property. And that's kind of where this would fall. So any of these properties that are on our surplus list, we would initially, before offering them to sale, for sale, we touch base with all of the surrounding property owners that are immediately adjacent. There's a process that follows, a 14-day waiting period after that contact to see if any of those People want that. Then we would go through our acquisition specialist to determine the fair market value for that. If there were no other, if the property owners weren't interested, we would then put it out to bid. And it would be a bidding process where we would base that on the fair market value.
Okay, and then how, during the sales process, how do we make sure it is indeed listed at a price that is affordable? And again, I'm familiar with a percent of AMI that would apply to the purchaser. How do we manage, or do we manage the sale price of that property?
Jason Yarbrough, Deputy City Manager. I'm going to backtrack a little bit to how do we lock in? It would be sold and we put a deed restriction that would run with the property and would be recorded with the property. It would make it more or less affordable housing for eternity, at least legally speaking, I guess. But that would be what you would do. You would put a deed restriction and it would be a condition of sale. And I'll defer to your last question.
I have one more question that I just thought of. When we sell these properties or any property on our available property list, where does the money go?
So the money for the property sold would go to whichever fund the property was listed under. So if it was a road and drainage property, that would go to road and drainage. Solid waste, the same, it would go to the district. If it's general fund, then it would fall back to general fund.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
That's it?
Commissioner Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is to the city attorney. So this would satisfy the Florida statute 166, this publication. Do we have to redo it on October 1st again, or?
Yes, every 3 years you come back and do a new list of properties. Is that what you're asking, Commissioner? Yeah, every 3 years you have to go back and do a new list or identify, which is what we're doing now. And I wasn't here, but apparently what we did in 2023, and so this is our second time around.
Do we have to do an updated list, or we can leave the same list on October 1st?
We would have to identify any, and it could be the same properties. If we have it, it could be new properties, it could be different ones.
So we're in compliance now?
I'm sorry?
We are in compliance now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
Commissioner Stokes.
Just a question. Do we know how many of these properties are currently zoned commercial?
So I did, before I answer your question, if I may, I did want to note that we are currently out of compliance because the last approved list was in 2020, which 6 years ago. So we do need to bring this up to date and then 3 years from the approval, revisit the list, and we could see all of the city properties that have become available since then and then update the list or maintain the same list if we so please. And then as far as properties maintained commercial, I don't believe there needs to be a new evaluation every year. And I do not believe we have any current listed commercial. Most of them, we don't allow, I don't think we have anything commercial on the list. It's mainly R1 properties, and we have removed all AC6 and AC10 properties from the list as well to maintain those for public use and benefit in the future. None of Deputy Director Lori Barnes just confirmed that none of the properties on the list are commercial. Some may be eligible for mixed use. And then I did also want to note that policy 2023-01 does govern the purchase and sale of all city-owned properties and outlines the appraisal requirements for those properties.
Commissioner DeValle.
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to put it on the record that I'd like to see this list redone, just based on what I looked at. There are 3 properties listed on Wagon Wheel Drive, and they are, I know this is hard for you all to see, but where I highlighted here, these are 3 separate properties all next to each other.
I have it on the screen.
And
It's on the screen.
there's a low density residential low right now. All the properties around them are low residentials, basically single-family homes. And just the fact that these three could be put together, I could see where a developer might buy these three properties, and then their idea of affordable housing might be, 10, 12, 20 apartments on that property. And now the people that have been living there for years are going to be looking at something different than what they're used to in their neighborhood, and I'm totally against that. So I'd like to see this list redone, based on that. I don't want to see any large properties in a single-family residential area put on this list. If it's a one, quarter acre lot, 0.23 acres, that's fine. I don't think a developer's gonna put a 100-story building on there, but 3 stories is possible, so I'd like to see, this off this list. So I won't vote for this list based on that.
So if I may, Commissioner, just 2 responses to your concern. These properties are not required to be sold under the affordable housing use. Also, if the city decides to sell these properties and then they are developed, they do have to comply with that low-density residential future land use and zoning requirements. So there are limitations to make sure that it is compatible with the surrounding land uses, but I will let Sherry speak to that as well.
Thank you, you did address that. That is correct. It would be regulated by the zoning district where the properties are located, and that refers to height, setbacks, impervious surface, and what the maximum building size would be. So that limitation is in there per our zoning regulations.
Yes, I understand that, but I also understand properties have been rezoned before. Our last year's, I guess 2 years ago now, it's 2024, the ULDC, did a lot of rezoning of some things. That's my concern. And I'm just stating that based on this, where I see 3 properties together, I don't want to see them on this list.
Okay, and that's a valid concern, but as I explained, it does have to comply with the zoning regulations, would limit the number, and at the most, it would be, I believe the intensity is 4 dwelling units per acre, and in R2, we allow only single-family residents and duplexes.
So for your concern for this property specifically and this list, any property that the city decides to sell, whether on this list or not, would have to come before the commission for approval of the sale of any properties, and it would have to go on a future agenda item. Also, commission does have the authority over a future land use map amendment and a rezone, so that scenario that you laid out, which is a valid concern, would have to undergo a future land use map amendment and a rezone before site development. So those first 2 would definitely have to come before commission and be approved by commission before they could move forward with that scenario.
Yes, thank you. I understand that, but based on the fact that that can happen, I don't want to see these 3 properties listed together on this list. That's just my feeling.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
You can vote on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You can vote on it, Commissioner Duval, with the board to take it off the list.
Anything else, city clerk, public comment?
Tim Boyle?
This is a very important subject. I don't know what the definition of low housing is, or what the amount is, or what the payment is. I have seen properties that were low housing switch to high-rise condos with big bucks. So I'm glad to hear that you're gonna put a deed restriction. I'm glad to hear that you're gonna send out an abutter notice beforehand, because that's what I think I heard. You didn't call it that, but I take that as an abutter notice. Now, by my house, I have heard through the grapevine, not in this room, on Alliance, I had to look up the street to remember which one it was, that they're thinking about building apartment buildings in my neighborhood. I am 100,000,000% against it. I don't know if that's private land, town land, but there's whispers in my community where I live that there was some talk about it. So this is all hearsay. I normally do not like talking about hearsay, but you're talking about something that kind of goes with this. The one thing I will say I've seen in this town is there's a lot of empty places. You built those apartment buildings and you build them more over by Toledo Blade there and Price. They got signs up there, free rent. I mean, if there's free rent, that's a little bit affordable if you ask me. I don't know what the rent is after the free rent. But you guys have to really start looking at your empty buildings in this town, and empty houses, and empty lots. I have an acre of land. That means they can come here and build this stuff on my land if they buy my house. I know my neighbors won't like it. And in my neighborhood, there are a lot of houses that do have an acre of land, because people were smart like me and bought up the lots around. So later on, if you're going to do this with your property, people can do it with their property. So you need to be careful. And I think zoning is the key here. And high-rise buildings should not be in a residential neighborhood. You call yourself a city, but the way I look at this is a bedroom community. You're trying to change that and bring in work, which I totally agree with, because people got to have a job. But to force this down my throat on the lot next to me is not right. And also what this brings is, you haven't even brought it up, water and sewer. Because these buildings cannot exist on septic and sewer. So these buildings are gonna have to have septic and sewer. And if it comes down my street, because of this building down the street, am I gonna have to pay you 50 grand for the utility to hook up to your pipes? Because they wanna build this building down the street? You can't build these buildings without water and sewer. Think about that too. Because I don't wanna pay for it.
That's all, Mayor.
All right, I'm gonna close this public hearing and request a motion.
I'd like to make one, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I move to adopt resolution number 2026-08 with the following changes. Removal of parcel IDs 09511399915, 09511399914, and 09511399913.
I'll second it.
I have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner DeBonne to adopt resolution number 2026-R-08 as presented with the following changes to include those three parcel IDs. If you'd like to read them back, please, City Clerk.
095-113-9915, 095-113-9914, 095-113-9913.
That was made by Commissioner DeVal and seconded by Commissioner Stokes. If there's nothing to that, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to general business, discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation to close city manager report. Item number 591 related to the Erdell Terrace property, parcel number 11412600522. City manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So following the adoption of resolution number 2024-R25 in September of 2024, the City Commission approved the following motion. That was to direct the city manager to work with Parks and Recs and Road and Drainage staff to bring back an agenda item at a future commission meeting regarding parkland and road and drainage relative to the Erdell Terrace property designated in resolution number 2024-R25. This directive was tracked as item number 591 on the city manager report with action deferred pending the completion of the Parks and Recs master plan to ensure any proposed development aligned with updated standards and needs. This agenda item fulfills that direction and provides the commission with an opportunity to determine whether to close city manager report item number 591 or pursue any further action related to the parcel. The commission officially adopted the Parks and Rec Master Plan on December 9th, 2025. Following a comprehensive evaluation under this plan, it has been determined that the Erdell Terrace property is unsuitable for park development and should be retained exclusively for stormwater management purposes. Key findings that supported this were the acreage deficit and the operational priority. As the property does not meet the criteria for park development established in the master plan, further exploration or recreational use is not warranted. Public Works will continue to manage the site strictly for road and drainage operations. Based on this information, staff recommends removing this item from the city manager report. So we ask that today you would choose recommended action option 1, close city manager report item number 591 related to Erdell Terrace, parcel number 114-1260522, and take no further action related to park use. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, commissioners. Any questions? City clerk, public comment?
There's none.
All right, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make it.
Go ahead.
I move to close city manager report item 591 related to Erdell Terrace, parcel number 114-126-0522, and take no further action related to park use.
Second. I have a motion on the floor made by Vice Mayor to close city manager report item number 591 related to the Erdell Terrace, parcel number 114-126-0522, and take no further action related to the park use. And that was seconded by Commissioner Stokes. If there's nothing to that, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to item 26-0441. Discussion and possible action regarding bestowing a key to the city to Alice White at a future commission meeting requested by Vice Mayor Langdon. Ms. Faust, this is your item.
Yes, this item was requested by Vice Mayor Langdon.
Okay, Vice Mayor Langdon, this is now your item.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd love to speak to this. I suspect everybody in this room knows Alice White. I'll just sort of say her love of this city and her sponsorship of the Tour de Northport, for those who might not be familiar, every year Alice would organize a bike tour, 3 different routes through the city of Northport with the intention of showcasing the specialness and the beauty of our amazing city. She also was the founder and has been active as a board member and chair of the board of People for Trees, with the intention of helping to build and rebuild our tree canopy. I can't imagine a person who would not be supportive of that kind of effort. And although participation as a commissioner in this city, in my mind, is not grounds for any type of recognition on its face.
Now you get enough.
I do want to point out that as a commissioner, she really led the then commission to re-look at our tree ordinance. And one of the outcomes of that is that we started charging the maximum allowed by state statute when a developer clear cut a property and didn't remediate it by either planting trees or keeping trees. Unfortunately, the city generated so much money from multiple $15,000 that we were able to use that money to fund our natural resource division. The impact that she has had on this city is phenomenal. When I ran the first time for this commission, as I spoke with people, I said, who are really the leaders in our city that I need to speak with so that I understand their point of view? Anyone who watches us, it's no mistake that I'm sort of an economic development jobs person, but repeatedly, people said, if you want to talk to someone with a commitment to the city and keeping Northport beautiful, it's Alice White. And I sat down with her, had coffee for 2 hours in her home. So I know we have been bestowing a number of keys to the city over the past 3 months. And on my part, it stems from a conversation we had last year where we said, why do we wait for someone to pass away before we bestow a key to the city for them? So it was sort of in that spirit and recognizing Alice's many, many contributions to this city, even something as small as volunteering to be a bell ringer at Christmas time, and she would bring her guitar and play as she was doing that kind of volunteer work. So she's a very special lady. I would love for this commission to consider her for a key to the city at an upcoming meeting, and I'd be interested in what you all have to say about that.
Commissioner Duval.
Thank you, Mayor. Alice White has been responsible for getting planted more than 11,000 trees in this city. I've been with Alice White replacing mulch at a school, with the children from the school learning about those plants that mulch was being replaced at. My home back in New York, before I moved here, I lived on one end of a golf course, and on the other end of the golf course was a stop on the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad is part of history of this state, of this country. Alice keeps that knowledge alive. She teaches about the Underground Railroad. She also does train tours, history. She's ever the teacher. I've been with, my wife and I have manned a stop on her tour to Northport. The first stop, 7.5 miles out. One ride is 15 miles, one's 35, one's 65 miles. The people with the little trailers and their dogs and their young children in a trailer behind a bicycle, they stopped at our refreshment stand. The ones that were doing 35 and 65, they didn't even slow down. I've also been with Alice on City Green for her annual tree fair. And Alice White was a commissioner here for 4 years, and that does deserve some recognition, just from the number of hours that I spend, and I'm nowhere near the class that Alice White is. So I make no excuses for this. She deserves it. Thank you.
Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah, it's hard not to want to sing Alice's praises. Not to mention, she's got a pretty good voice and plays a mean guitar. But yeah, she certainly is deserving, as the other folks who we have issued a key to the city for. I'm supportive of this. I will say, though, I would like to either at this meeting or a future meeting discuss taking a hard look at this, because I don't want to see the key to the city be diluted. And while each of the people who we've given it to over this last year are very deserving, in my opinion, one, I think there ought to be a process to it. I think there ought to be a committee that reviews it. I don't think commissioners ought to nominate people for a key to the city. I think there should be a criteria established, and then it's brought before commission for approval. I think there perhaps should be some discussion about how many in a given period of time are issued. I just want to see this be as important and valued when it's bestowed upon somebody, and not just every single month giving out a key to the city, because I can come up with at least 20, 30, 40, 50 people in this city who are every bit as deserving, who have made huge contributions to this city. There are some people who have done tremendous things for this city. So I'd like to see a process. And so I don't know whether it's appropriate for this meeting, or we just put it on as an agenda for discussion and possible action. I think that's probably the best thing, and we'll take it up at another time. Thank you, that's all I got, Mayor.
Commissioner Petro.
Thank you, Mayor. Certainly I applaud Alice White as the founder of People for Trees non-for-profit advocacy, and I wrote some things that she did. It's the non-for-profit advocacy group that focused on promoting Florida-friendly landscaping, environmental education, planting native trees, and she does emphasize planting of native or replanting of native trees. I applaud her for her outstanding role in the tree giveaway, or giveaways actually, sales and workshops, community events, environmental programs in Northport. That being said, I do want to point out that Alice White was very environmentalist, but she did and I looked at her record of voting, that she was in approval of many rezoning areas in our city, and that is Avella Northport is one of the examples. That is a 260 multifamily units and 7 3-story buildings that is surrounded to be placed in a single-family residential neighborhood. That is surrounded on 4 sides by single-family residential units, and thus reducing greatly the quality of life in our city, and shows consistent support for development in environmentally sensitive areas. And I do not appreciate that. However, all that being said, I do support her in receiving this award, and I think she's well deserving to be a recipient of this award for her role in activist in our community, and as an example, how can a mere single resident can make a big change of replanting of the landscape and preserving a canopy of the tree canopy in our city. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, everybody's touched on just about every little avenue of Miss Alice except for her baking skills.
There you go. That's what you, Pete.
Oh, absolutely, the pie lady, and she uses that little signature from math class for pie, and that's awesome. But no, I worked with Alice when I was an employee of the city for many, many years, and afterwards I had the privilege to work with her on the dais and the board, and we just became closer over the years, and Alice is just a wonderful lady. Her and her son spent a lot of time going out and traveling, and I get to see a little bit of their escapades on Facebook, and it's just awesome to be able to, just sort of see life from Alice's eyes, because she is a teacher, and it is very respectful, and I enjoyed all the time that I've had with her. And I support this. She definitely deserves it, and I wish her best of luck, and hopefully she brings a pie when she gets a key, who knows? I mean,
5 pies.
5 pies. better get bacon, Alice, but back to you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just say, in closing, I think everyone is supportive of giving Alice the key, and I do appreciate that. I do recognize Commissioner Stokes's comments, however, and I think it's long overdue for the commission to review that policy. With the mayor's leave, I would like to make a motion.
After public comment.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay.
And then I'll still think about it. No. We have public comment?
Yes, we do.
Cheryl Cook, I'm speaking about the city's Key to the City Award, our highest honor. This recognition is intended for individuals whose actions demonstrate exceptional service, lasting impact, and extraordinary commitment to our community's values. That standard should be high, clear, and consistently applied. In this case, there are clear disconnect between that standard and the record being recognized. The recipient is publicly known as the Tree Lady, a title that suggests dedication to the community. However, during her time in office, there were actions and positions that appear inconsistent with the values this award is meant to honor, including efforts to sell the People's Environmental Park, consistent support for development in sensitive areas such as Warm Mineral Springs, and before that, little to no visible advocacy for preserving major environmental assets like Orange Hammock. If someone is to receive the city's highest honor, their record should clearly and consistently reflect exceptional service or contributions to the city. Given these concerns, I respectfully ask the city elect board to reconsider awarding the Key to the City to this individual. When the award is granted in a way that appears inconsistent with its stated purpose, it diminishes its meaning and raises legitimate concerns about how recipients are chosen. This is not about personalities, it's about standards and accountability. I urge the city elected board to clearly define, publicly explain, and consistently apply the criteria for this honor. I would also ask the city to consider safeguards such as a waiting period or additional criteria when considering current or former elected officials to avoid any perception of favoritism and preserve the integrity of the award. Kiwanis Club. There once was a lady who cherished trees so much that she claimed herself to them before they were clear cut for Walmart to be built. There once was a lady who opened a coffee shop in Northport long before there ever was a Starbucks. There once was a lady who played her guitar and sang during the Poinsettia Festival after the parade at Dallas White Park. There once was a lady who wrote a book about a boy named Jake to teach children about the environment. There once was a lady who taught children about parks and the value of the environment. There once was a lady who taught children how to bake pies in her kitchen. There once was a city that knew it was the right thing to say thank you to that lady. Alice White earned the Key to the City. Thank you, Alice, for all you've done for this city. In person, I have Joan Morgan.
You've all taken most of it. Alice is great. She's the environmentalist. If she hasn't been called the greenest citizen, my God, she is. She's the greenest of the greenest. One thing that wasn't mentioned is the daycare that she tried to open. Actually, the old South Biscayne church and that when it was the shopping center and that daycare. History, the Underground Railroad. I certainly can appreciate that, being a history teacher, and she does that at Shannon Stobbs Library, and it's just absolutely amazing. The People for Trees and everything that she's done for them. Here's one that you don't know. I had the privilege, honor of being with Alice in Fort Lauderdale in 2000 when she became the state of Florida one of the Teachers of the Year. Okay, you just don't do that overnight, and I certainly, my husband being a math teacher, can appreciate her pie symbol. Biking, how about her biking across states, okay? I mean, not just a little bike ride, not just the fact that she does the tour to Northport. Can you imagine how many details while she's teaching, okay? And a teacher, not only a great teacher, but one better than all the others in the state of Florida. The tree fair, as a commissioner, all that she did, and probably one of her greatest assets, one of the things that she cherishes the most is the mother of Jake, okay? And the book that she wrote. And Alice is always on duty. I can remember one time I called her because somebody wanted a tree cut and all this kind of stuff, and I just called her on the phone. She was in Liverpool, okay? She was going down the Beatles' old hometown and playing their pianos and doing all this stuff in Liverpool, but she took the time to tell me what I needed to know about this tree for a person. I've known her for a long time. I love her, and God bless her. Hey, she's achieved everything. She's what makes Northport great.
Thank you. I will request a motion.
I have two, although I suspect Commissioner Stokes might want to make one of them. But let me start with, I move to direct City Clerk to create an agenda item for the next ceremonial commission meeting. And it might be well, you might get it in for May, we'll see. For the next ceremonial commission meeting to present Alice White with a key to the city.
I'll second it.
Have a motion on the floor to direct the city clerk to create an agenda item for the next ceremonial commission meeting to present Alice White with a key to the city. That was seconded, or that was made by Vice Mayor and seconded by Commissioner Stokes. Nothing to that, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Vice Mayor, you got motion number 2.
Do you want to make it?
Yeah, I'll make it.
Or Commissioner Stokes?
Thank you, Mayor, and Vice Mayor. Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion that we direct staff to bring back an agenda item for discussion and possible action with regard to establishing a more robust policy and criteria for issuing a key to the city of Northport.
Have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Stokes. City Clerk, can you read it back, please?
To direct the city clerk to create an agenda item for discussion and possible action regarding the key to the city policy.
I'll second it for discussion.
Commissioner Duval already seconded.
Oh, I did not hear that.
I did. Do you wish to speak on it?
I would.
Well, then go right ahead.
I'd like to suggest an amendment, if that's appropriate at this time. If we're taking a look at the requirements for the key to the city, I recommend that we look at the entire policy and make sure that all of the different levels of recognition are in alignment and complementary to one another.
City Clerk, is that incorporated in the original motion as well, looking at everything coming back to us?
No, we would do the amendment to remove the language, the key to the city policy, and replace it with the ceremonial item policy. That's what it's called. We have a whole policy which includes all of those items.
Okay, so would you like to make an amendment to change that, or is that good enough?
What you just read back is good enough to me, if it's okay for the motion maker and seconder.
Well, I was hoping we would just discuss it and be able to spend some time talking about what all ought to be part of this policy before we send staff off to actually do any work. So I think, I don't know where everybody else's head is on this matter. Maybe the majority feels just leave it the way it is, but, I'm feeling like, I raised some concerns when I made my comments earlier. Should a commissioner be able to nominate? Should there be a separate committee, and who should make up that committee? Who should make recommendations? Should there be, how many in a given period of time should be issued? All those things I figured we could discuss as an agenda item, and then if we all felt there was some need for action or change, we could direct staff rather than put them to work when we don't really know what we're asking them to do, and they don't know what we're asking them to do.
Mayor, if I can. So the policy is actually very short right now, and it includes the key to the city, the proclamations, letters, all of that stuff. It's in a very short policy, so we can just bring back the whole policy for you all to review and
then
discuss it,
we can
and
have our
then let us know
discussion.
what changes to make, and then we'll.
Yeah, that was my intention, because I
Right.
suspect members of the community would want to provide some input to that policy as well.
So that is covered in the original motion.
The original motion will be to direct the city clerk to create an agenda item for discussion and possible action regarding the ceremonial item policy.
Okay. That was made by Commissioner Stokes, seconded by Commissioner Duval. If there's nothing to that, please vote. And that passes 5-0. All right, it's 11:30. We're going to take a 10-minute break and come back and discuss the last item.
every hour, every act, quietly connected.
Most of us don't think about how our city works. We drive on maintained roads, we call when there's an emergency, we assume someone's keeping it all running. And they are. Northport University gives residents a chance to step behind the scenes, to meet the people doing the work, to see how decisions are made, and to understand how we, as a community, can be part of it. It's not just about learning the facts. It's about learning where you fit in and how you could shape the city we call home.
The most surprising thing would probably be the opportunity to get tased, which is really cool, understanding how that feels. Would recommend for everyone, unless they have a heart condition. I think another thing would probably be how many people it takes to run everything.
Is how well all the departments work together and how well each of the departments know about other departments. So in the case of a big emergency, they already know what other departments are already supposed to do, and they all work together.
This is always a dance. There's always moving parts. There's always things that can impact a decision, whether it's state, local, federal, revenue. All these things come into play, and it's just amazing all these things that how the city is impacted for the variety of things that can occur.
I feel more confident in the city, in the way it operates. I don't see wasteful spending. I see a lot of proactive thinking, way outside the box of what I thought a city does.
Well, I was already in love with Northport. I think everyone knows that. I got to meet the people who work here, their love for the community, how hard it is to run a whole city, the intricacies of it, and the why. It answers so many questions about the why things are done their way they're done. So it empowers you to love where you live more and to get more involved.
And I think the important message here is the confidence that I really feel now of the people running each of these departments. You know, they are running multi-million-dollar businesses all separately, but coming together with tax dollars that come through. And that is by far not an easy task.
Departments that we've been to seem to have improved with the growth in the city. So the mere fact that we've grown such a major amount, the department heads have grown, the staff has grown, the offerings have grown, and the need for involvement from the residents has also grown.
I think Parks and Rec really showed up and did an amazing job. They had a bunch of staff people. They kind of brought us around, had different speakers. I think they take the prize for the best overall display.
Places that I didn't think I would enjoy as much, like I didn't think I'd enjoy Public Works as much as I did. I loved it. And it seemed to me that there were the more questions that were asked.
The Economic Development Council, I think that is just, again, it all points to live, work, and play within our community.
I think there's a lot of misunderstanding out there about really how these departments work, how the city really works. And I think by offering a class like this, you get such an exposure to so many different departments and meet so many different people, you can't help but want to be a part of it.
If you plan on living here and living amongst the community and understanding the growth and understanding what we need, definitely join the Northport University. You're going to be pleasantly surprised.
I would absolutely say do it, because you don't know until you know. And you can go online and you can read all these things, but a lot of it is the experience. And sitting across from whether it's the chief of police, the chief of fire rescue, utilities, all these, administration, all these departments are absolutely, you meet the leaders. You can look into their eye and ask pertinent questions that are important to you, so you understand of where they're at, where they're going, what are their constraints, and how we can be, as residents, try and give them the resources they need to provide the services that we're asking them to provide.
I'm more in love with Northport than I've ever been.
Hey Brandon, what are you listening to? Just listen to my CPR playlist.
What's on that?
Staying alive. I'm Zach, and this is Travis from Northport Fire Rescue. And I'm Brandon, and this is Brett from the Northport Aquatic Center. Did you know a lot of the songs that you listen to on a daily basis follow the beats of CPR? 100 to 120 beats per minute. CPR saves lives.
Hey Northport, I'm here with Ryan from our engineering division in Public Works, and we're in an area that is experiencing some drainage concerns that were brought to us by some residents. So Ryan, what are some things you do when you get onto a scene like this to see what the issue may be?
First thing we do is we start at the bottom of the system, the outfall, how it connects into the canal. Then we start working our way up. We go through the cross drains, the culverts, the under drains, and we look at every way the water flows downward. And we look for blockages, sumped dirt pile up, and even sometimes could potentially collapsed culverts underneath. And you got to remember, you can't report your water being an issue until we have 72 hours of no rainfall. And let's say it rains on Tuesday, and a couple days go by, and on that second day it rains again, you got to restart your 72 hours. We have to spend time of our water inside the system in order to clean it and in order to slow it down. Otherwise, we're going to end up washing out our neighbors below us.
Absolutely. So tell us about what's happening here.
Right here, we have a rather large blockage inside the system. This is clearly a illegal dump of some sort, a tree, obviously, and this will slow down the water. If we could see on the north side of it, or north as in the upper part of the drainage way, it's full of water. But when we look at our footage from down below, it's dry. So this is a huge point of collecting water. These systems really fail sometimes with like a death by 1,000 cuts. You get a sump here, a collapsed culvert pipe, a blockage like this, and it slowly adds up.
That makes sense. So if anybody out there is seeing issues like this or experiencing it in your neighborhood, you're welcome to report it through our North Report system, which is at northportfl.gov/northreport, or you can give the Public Works customer service a call.
In Northport, families are finding more and more places built just for them.
We opened this past June. We are an indoor play center for children ages 0 to 7. We do open play sessions, birthday parties, special events, and classes here at the play center. For me, being a Northport resident, there was really not a whole lot in Northport for children besides the local parks. So it was super important for me to have something in the community to be able to offer to families with young children. You want to have that option to be able to still get out of the house with the kids, get their energy out, and not have to hike all the way up somewhere with traffic.
And you can just go to a spot near you and just make those special memories that are close to home.
Playtime Paradise isn't the only new spot making playtime local.
Do the Beach is a immersive indoor adventure park. We are primarily an inflatable-based attraction. We have over 14 different ride attractions scattered throughout the park. With growing young families pouring into Northport and growing the city, we just knew there was such a need for families to have an outlet and some good entertainment, active entertainment for children. One of our core beliefs as a company is encouraging kids to get involved in active and social play, getting them away from their screens and using their imaginations.
From slides to inflatables, dance classes, birthday parties, Northport is growing, and so are the options for young families right here at home.
The community has welcomed us with open arms.
We are thrilled to be here.
It shows families that there's a place for them to grow as a young family in Northport.
There's a place in Northport that invites you to slow down, to see, hear, and feel the world around you. Inside the Garden of Five Senses is Boundless Adventures, a playground where every child can play, no matter their abilities. Just beyond the playground, the Story Stroll turns a simple walk into an interactive adventure. Each step reveals a new page or activity, sparking imagination, curiosity, and conversation. It's a walk, a story, and an adventure, all in one beautiful setting. The Garden of Five Senses, Boundless Adventures, and the Story Stroll, where every visit is a story waiting to be discovered.
All right, we're back at it. Moving on to 26-0556. Discussion and possible action regarding seeking borrowing authority for a specific list of capital projects. City Manager, this is your item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am joined by a lot of people today to discuss some of the issues here that we're going to talk about with the capital projects. We have our Finance Director, Irina Kukurenko. We also have Jeremy Newfield, who is our PFM advisor online. We also have our Police Department in the back to discuss some of the issues with the police headquarters, as was mentioned earlier by our PBA rep as well. But most recently, during the commission budget workshop held on March 13th, we presented some potential projects for consideration as part of a future borrowing program. And also, I'm sorry, we have our city attorney, Mr. Michael Fuino, who will talk about the bond validation process itself as necessary. We want to seek borrowing authority through a court-validated process, and that means we must identify a list of projects in advance. Inclusion on this list is intended solely to preserve the city's ability to respond to future needs and priorities and support long-term financial planning for potential financing. If and when it is determined to be financially viable, necessary, and appropriate. Listing a project on the court-validated schedule does not constitute approval to move forward with borrowing. It does not authorize funding and does not obligate the city to issue the debt. Any future decision to proceed with the borrowing for a specific project would require additional review, analysis, and formal approval by the City Commission at that time. Such consideration would include a separate evaluation of our debt capacity, funding source restrictions, and the city's overall financial position. In parallel, staff will continue to pursue grants, partnerships, and other cost-saving opportunities to minimize the city's financial impact. The list that we reflected in the staff summary as well as in the attachment are shown in an order that we prioritize due to their funding opportunities. The first few items, which are the ones I've talked about most frequently, are the Community Service Center, where the current tenant in that center is the Awaken Outreach, where they serve food distribution. And the project cost for that building is approximately $2 million and includes the demolition of the current building and the construction of a 5,000 square foot pre-engineered metal building for use by that nonprofit as the current tenant or other nonprofits as the building is expanded to serve the residents. The Dallas White Park Cultural Center, the former most recent tenant was the Art Center, and we have used their cost estimates based on information they received, which is approximately $7 million and includes a proposed 11,500 square foot two-story building with 3 classrooms, flexible studio space, second floor areas for revenue generation or nonprofit sharing for use. And the facility is intended to support our cultural, education, and community programming. And the third item in my small proposed bucket was the Fire Station A, which is about an $8 million cost that includes the purchase of land, design, and construction of a new fire station north of Interstate 75 and North Toledo Blade Boulevard, along with fire trucks and equipment needed to service the area. Those were the original projects that I discussed, and for the reasons of the 2 buildings that I mentioned in the beginning, those buildings were our buildings. We, at some point in time as a city, failed to take care of them as we should, and now those tenants that were in those buildings are no longer there. The reconstruction of those buildings ideally would provide the room for more than just those former tenants in those buildings, but all still serving the same purpose along with those tenants to service our community in various ways. Whoever the tenants are in the future is ultimately up to the commission, as we know, and we would give you the information and collaboration from the current tenants in order for you to make that decision. Those are the projects that I put in my initial submittal because those are the ones I believe that we could pay for within our current budget by reducing our current budget. If you remember the budget conversation that we had on March 13th, where I said that we would propose reducing our budget by 5%, that is what would include the debt service payments from those projects. And that's how I feel confident that we can include those in our path forward if you so choose to do so. The next couple of projects, the water and wastewater expansion, which is approximately $20 million, extends those services to residents throughout the city in a methodical economical manner to maximize efficiency and costs. That will be paid back from user fees, not from the actual budget savings that I referenced earlier. The effluent pump station, about $17 million is necessary to ensure that high flows during heavy rain events can be properly managed to meet all regulatory requirements. This also has not been discovered or utilized from the savings that I reflected. That funding has been reallocated from other capital improvement projects. And this project is a strong candidate to receive funding through a low interest state revolving fund loan, which would help reduce the immediate financial burden by allowing costs to be financed over a period of time. The next project listed was the Park Maintenance Operations Building and Complex. This was a $7 million project cost from a building that was destroyed during Hurricane Ian. The existing parks maintenance ability and ancillary storage areas were deemed unusable. And so for the past 3 years, the parks maintenance staff has been operating out of temporary trailers. The Italy Avenue Community Park, the final project that was listed on our summary, was for $16 million, and this project is a high priority because it addresses the city's biggest service gaps on the east side of the city, and residents lack close to home park access and walkable neighborhood parks. So what we're asking you today is to have a discussion regarding one, some, all, or none of these projects for a bond validated process that we would like to proceed with in order to see if we can take care of some of the infrastructure in our city without raising any millage rate or taxes for our citizens. I have heard the conversation as our PBA rep said this morning, well, why didn't you include the police headquarters in this conversation? So the funding that would take for the full scale of the police headquarters was not something I could logically find within our budget process. The annual debt payment would be too much. Now, it doesn't mean that we cannot sort of segment the larger scale project, which is approximately $100 million, and build the police headquarters complex in phases. That is more than doable if we can decide what projects would or wouldn't be included and what we can afford and how we can afford it. The police headquarters, as was mentioned by our PBA rep earlier, is still a priority and a need for this city. And I know that people would say that we put it on the shelf, and I keep saying that it is not on the shelf. We just put it to the side because we have budget concerns that we had to deal with which are pressing to us right now. And the history and the traditional way that we operate as a government is under threat right now based on what may or may not happen at the state level with property taxes. But we don't operate in terms of what fearful events may happen. We need to deal with what we have to do right now. And one of the things that we have on our plate right now is the property and evidence room at our police headquarters has gotten to the size where we are now beginning to enter a territory where we're jeopardizing the quality of our property and evidence from our police department, and that's not good. That is critical to how we collect evidence, process evidence, and use it to defend ourselves in court. And when those concerns start to get raised up, I think we all need to just take a second look at what we're doing. So the reason why I did not put it in there was, again, due to size. I do not want to minimize the ability for us to take a different approach to make space so our police department can have the space they need for property and evidence, while still going ahead and moving forward and utilizing the land that we've already purchased and the design that we've already paid for our police headquarters in our city. So I will stop right there, Mr. Mayor, and see what questions we have and what direction you can provide to us. And like I said, we have a plethora of people who can answer a lot of questions here today for this very important topic. Thank you, sir.
All right, Commissioner Stokes.
Mayor, I'm going to probably need a good 30 minutes minimum. So I'll start with 10. Let's just see what happens. I'm happy to go with the second round and you all can decide.
I'll get the official timer out here, sir.
First question, I was going to ask what rationale and criteria went into this proposed list, but I sort of, from city manager's comments,
Audio.
I sort of get it.
Microphone.
I'm sorry. So I do get what the rationale is with regard to these projects. Is it staff's proposal to submit an entire list? I mean, if you add up the loan amounts here, it's $100 million. Are we talking about, you talked about being able to reduce the budget to create an amount of money that could service debt, which my understanding from our one-on-one conversations is in and around the $2.5 to $3 million range, which would allow us to borrow somewhere in the order of $30 or $35 million, assuming we could put this through a court validation process and get it approved. Okay, if that's the case, then what I'm trying to understand is, are we here trying to pick $30 million worth of projects?
So, yes, Commissioner, so we can only afford, within the budget that we have, that $2.5 to $3 million. And I would lean more towards the $2.5 million if I were putting my number in. And you're right, that will get you around probably $35 million-ish. So based on what you're seeing, unless you're going to add revenue to that particular equation from a different source, that's all we have.
Okay.
Which is why I started with the original 3 projects that we were talking about.
Okay, gotcha.
What our finance team and director wanted to ensure was that we were not pre-selecting those projects without giving you the full picture of what it looked like. Because if you were to say, no, we don't want to do those 3, then you might choose a different project. Some of the other projects that I mentioned, like the wastewater expansion or the effluent pumping station, are paid from fees that are garnered through a different kind of bond.
Appreciate it. I don't mean to cut you off, but I only have 10 minutes, so I heard what you have to say. What I'd like to understand better here is the validation process, okay? I've read up some, and I understand that the financial viability of a project that's submitted for court validation has no bearing on the court's evaluation. It's based on legalities, but I need more understanding. So if we were to submit a couple of projects to this court validation process, what specific criteria are they using? And address the issue of our charter, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. The only issue that the court decides during a bond or a loan validation proceeding is the legality of the municipality's ability to file. So the financial wisdom, I think, is what you were speaking to, Commissioners, is not considered by the court. It's just whether or not the municipality has the legal authority to issue the debt that it's seeking to incur.
And so in this particular case, because we have a truly unique charter, one of only 411, that prohibits borrowing without a public referendum and vote of the citizenry. I assume the court, and correct me if I'm wrong, is going to have to make a determination as to how the court interprets our charter with regard to this request. And part of that concern or question I have is, does the methodology of funding, okay, how we do it, whether it's okay, I know we can't do a general obligation bond because that statewide requires a vote, but a revenue bond, taking advantage of state or local or federal programs, those kinds of things, will the court look at those and then determine whether or not they are part of this charter restriction or not?
That'll exactly be the
okay,
issue
good.
for the court to decide.
Perfect. Okay, good. That solves that problem for me. Hang on, one more. Then, city manager kind of addressed why the police department building was not included in this list. So I have, tried to identify, we have 2 separate independent consulting studies that indicated this project, what we needed was what we needed. But obviously we don't have the money for it. not including a portion, not having to redesign this bloody project, but using the project as designed, breaking it into phases and pieces. If we were to include in this potential projects for borrowing list $25 million for the police headquarters, would that get the project started without having to redesign the damn project? Would it get it started? Would it move this needle forward and get this going? And then open the opportunity for us in 28 potentially to go ask the citizens to do a full, a referendum item to pay for the balance of it. Because it is my opinion that if we sit here, evaluate the existing projects that are on this list, okay, and select a group of them and do not include the police headquarters, a portion of the police headquarters, we're not setting it to the side. We're putting it on the shelf to collect dust. It'll be 5 to 7 years before anybody revisits this because there'll be newly incurred debt that the city's gonna have to pay for, okay? Even though it doesn't involve a tax increase, it's still part of the taxable revenues the city brings in. And there'll be no money for this police headquarters. So, it's my understanding that 25 million would get it started. I'd like to hear from the police department as to whether or not $25 million gets this project started without having to redesign, or am I just wasting my time here?
Since you're short on time, the answer to your question is yes, that is what is needed. If you take your $25 million and you build a small building that begins the project, that will get you started. Now, you also said that if we don't do something now, it'll be 5 to 7 years until we revisit it. I don't think that timeline is completely accurate. If you choose not to do it now and we borrow some other projects and that reduces our debt capacity, you would need to be able to see what your debt capacity would be in the upcoming years and see if there's an opportunity to go back out through the traditional way to get the public on board through their cooperation and participation in order to get it done in a different way. But it would not be 5 to 7 years. That's a little bit too long.
Certainly, everybody has their opinion. And that's,
why am I here?
Sorry to do this, but I have to tell you, this agenda item just blew me away, okay? Because to put forth a list of projects here that potentially indebts the city and not to include some portion of the PD headquarters in this list is just, to me, mind-boggling. Every one of these projects on here saved the community service center and has other pathways for funding here. And, we pay lip service to this problem with the PD building. This is another Price Boulevard in the making, as far as I'm concerned. It will be a $250 million project if it's kicked down the road. We need to take a bite out of this project, and I was happy to hear that there is some pathway to do this. So, I'm gonna relinquish the floor here by saying my position is I want to start with 25 million out of the potential 35 million, 30 to 35 million, to go to the PD, and then we can talk about, and I have a lot more to say about all these projects, but to figure out what else we can package with 25 for the PD headquarters and come up with a number that's, financially viable to take to the court for validation.
You got about,
good, huh?
You got about 13 grains left.
I'll relinquish the floor.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you need the timer too?
Yeah, you better put the timer on for me. Thank you for asking those questions, Commissioner Stokes. I had similar questions. I'll just throw out some general comments about how I approach this list. Number one, having the safety driver track and a training center on this list and not the PD headquarters made my head explode as well. And I don't think we can resolve this issue of what projects we highlight for borrowing without providing some funding for the police headquarters. And in my one-on-ones with city manager, my habitual question is, has anyone given the chief a number to work with? And he very politely reminded me that perhaps that was the commission's job, and we'll get to that today. So clearly I concur with Commissioner Stokes that some type of funding for a police headquarters, whatever shape it might take, needs to be on this list. Another general reaction to the list, as much as I want that Italy Avenue Community Park, it is in my district, I'm a huge supporter of that park. It would be such an asset to not only the east side of the city, but to the entire city with some of the conversations we've had there. But it's just a belief of mine, a strongly held belief of mine that we do not borrow money for amenities, period. We find another way to fund them, surtax fees, usage fees, some way to fund them. So for me, the last two projects, I just numbered them, 10 and 11 are off the list as far as I'm concerned. We're talking about building a new community center of some type, whatever that would look like. I'm supportive of that. I don't know if 10 million, I haven't sort of settled my mind on is that the right number. But other thoughts that I have, and I've said this before in earlier meetings, we have a social services building with a lot of office space. It's been a while since I've walked through that building. I think overall it's in pretty good shape. It's a sound building. But I see a lot of independent walled offices while the rest of the world is going to flexible space. Places where you plug in shared space, some secure spaces if you need to have a private conversation with a client. But I would like to look at that space, and is there a way to reconfigure what's in there so that we can accommodate more activity? I know from previous conversations that some of the nonprofits in that building aren't there every day. They don't use their space 100%. We need to look at that. We are space challenged. And it's one of our better buildings, unless someone corrects me that it's falling down, but it looked pretty good to me when I walked through it. Another impression was just walking into the first floor was a lot of wasted space. We need to look at that and see if we can repurpose some buildings to be able to do more with the space that we have. And again, I've said this before, the Mullins Center is underutilized. Off-season, it's utilized about 50%. That is not to say that very important activities happen there. We're moving the senior center there. I think the summer day camp was probably one of the priorities. Should we be considering, again, repurposing the Mullins Center and expanding the Morgan Center? Would we be able to accomplish both of those things with less than, $8, $10 million? I don't know if that's possible. I've never been involved in a really serious conversation to look at those spaces and see if they're retrievable. We also talked in earlier meetings, and this is the Community Service Center, that building is in deplorable shape. But we did have a conversation where if we spent, I forget the number, it was less than $1 million, maybe around $700,000, to extend the life of that building another 3 or 5 years, we have to do more with what we have. And one of the other, not frustrations, but in looking at this list of projects and the potential repayment sources, some of these projects might be able to be fully funded without incurring any debt with some of the other mechanisms available to them. So I didn't really have a sense of, and let's talk about the police headquarters, if we were able to allocate, just for the sake of conversation, 25 million in this conversation, what other mechanisms do they have to maybe get it to 50 million, and again, to phase in that project? The only thing I'm sure of, nobody is gonna get what they want. If we do our jobs, everybody's gonna get what they need. To coin a phrase from one of the rock bands from my youth. So that's where we're at, folks, and we all have to say we're gonna have to give stuff up. We're gonna have to figure out what investments are gonna have the most positive impact on our community in the relative short term. And this is painful for me because I'm always 10 years out. What are we doing today, and what kind of impact is that gonna have on this city in 10, 15, 20 years? We don't have the kind of money to be able to do that. I would love to give the police their $122 million and have that space planned out to 2065. In my gut, I know that is the right thing to do. We don't have the money. So maybe, Chief, I have a few grains left. If I can put you on the spot, if we were able to put 25 million, and I won't even say for the police headquarters, if we were able to allocate 25 million to alleviate your worst issues in your current space by phasing things in or whatever, what other funds could you put your hands on to maybe get that to a more reasonable number to do a phase one of the headquarters? Does that make sense?
Kind of lost. You said if you're giving me 25 million?
Yeah, if we came up with 25 million in this exercise for you to do something with,
Right.
can you work with that? Could
Yes.
it help solve, it won't solve your problem, but alleviate some of it?
It would help me start addressing the need that I have for the property evidence in crime scene area.
But the second part of your question is, what other money can he
Right.
put his hands on?
That was the part I was lost
Yeah,
with.
what does that mean?
Either impact fees, or I know surtax is, so 25 million is it then?
Unless you were to rearrange surtax in a way that harms or
Yeah, so that's up,
That's
so
another one.
25 million is it. Any rough idea of what you could do with that? What would you do with that?
Our property evidence crime scene facility.
Would you build it on the land that we have?
Yes.
Would we do something here?
Yes.
Would we also have staff there? I would have some
Yes.
concerns in having an isolated facility storing that property without,
No, the staff that
I
works in
concur.
that area would go to that area as well. They would work out of that area.
okay. So we could begin to piecemeal something on that property that would be a step toward the
Absolutely.
bigger, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, that's what I was looking for.
This is how we started.
Yeah,
here.
I'll-
Yeah, you're about done.
That's
I'll
crime
yield.
scene.
Good.
Okay,
Yes.
Deja vu?
Deja vu.
okay, she's done, so.
Okay.
I have a question for the city manager. When you brought up the Awakened Church building over there, that community building, we had discussions prior to that, that we were looking at rehabbing, keeping the concrete there, and then just fixing that up as in like a warehouse type situation for Awakened Church. And now you're presenting it as a $2 million total demolition, and why is that?
Because as our public works director comes down, I believe that we were looking at the long-term viability of the building. So we can put, I would say, in my words, some Band-Aids on the current building, which is what he outlined in his presentation. But ultimately, even if you put a small patch job of whatever that $600,000-$700,000 is, you're going to need a new building in the very near future. This was put on here as a proposal for a longer-term solution for that problem. But I think the last conversation we did have was to go in the direction of the patching of the building, but I'm not sure what the status of that is, or I'm misremembering.
Sure. Chuck Speak, Public Works Director. So there's some minor modifications we can do or repairs that we can do, mostly to some of the support systems, your HVAC systems and such. We can make some minor repairs to the roof. We can't do any more structural repairs to that roof. We can't coat it. We can't put new metal on it. We can't do anything with that side. So eventually we're gonna run into an envelope problem at that building. One of the options that was brought up was to tear down that portion of the building and keep the other portion, which is the block building. By the time because some of your support services, electrical panel, et cetera, are in the metal side of that building, all that needs to be moved. By the time we go through that exercise, you're gonna be probably upwards of about $1 million to try to retrofit that space. At that point, we have to think what's more prudent with the use of the money. Do we spend $2 million for an entire new structure that will last us for the foreseeable future, that's built to support this, that's custom built to support this operation? Or do we spend that $1 million into a building that we're going to continue to kind of chase problems with?
All right, with that said though, and this, I'm good with you, I just wanted to know what was going on with that building. And I can understand
Yes,
how
sir.
the 2 million is more prudent. But as Jerome, or city manager, had stated earlier today, that with the savings on this budget, you can incur debt of $2.5 million. So with the savings of the budget, it sort of seems like we can get that accomplished with the savings from the budget and then not have to go out and seek a loan for that portion. Because that could be done and off the list. Because that is one of the greatest needs that we've heard from citizenry out there, is the Awaken Food Pantry as one. That's always come up. It's been a need for the community, and I wholeheartedly support that. What's tough is when I looked at this, I'm looking at, these different projects. We're looking at 4.5% interest for 20 years. So that means we're gonna be landlocked at anything that we borrow. So if we're borrowing, let's say $30 million, we're gonna be handcuffed to $2.5 million every year, or whatever it comes out to, $3 million for the next 20 years. So our debt is gonna be there. It's gonna decrease what we can borrow, even if we did put it out to referendum and stuff like that. I would much rather be able to afford the payments going forward. So, and there's already arguments out there on, you wanted to do the nonprofit community center, and that was like what, 9 million, 8 million, 7 million, something in there?
It was 2 buildings that we estimated at 9 million. The one that you're talking about with the CEC and also the Dallas White building.
Right, but that was earmarked from a general fund and surtax, which is still taxpayer money paying for that in that debt for 20 years.
But yes, they're your buildings that you would pay for.
I understand that,
Right.
but this is the purpose of it, and the taxpayers out there are saying, we don't want to invest our tax money into nonprofits. And I understand that, so I think there's different avenues that need to be taken, and I know I'm gonna catch hell from the wife when I get home tonight, but that's what's out there. And we have to be a lot more prudent in what we're looking at. Like Vice Mayor brought up, we may have to look at the space that we have within the city and start moving things around to incorporate the needs that we have within the city without building brand new buildings and possibly going to retrofit this, that, and the other. And this is that's why I took a break, because I knew this was going to be a long conversation going through this process. We definitely need to sit down with the PD and have either a workshop or a conversation and say, okay, if you did get 25 million, what are we gonna get accomplished with that? Do we need to take another one of our buildings, possibly move staff from City Hall to that building, retrofit this for some PD admin. You know, there's a lot of different solutions out there that we absolutely have to have those conversations on.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Mayor. So let me be clear. These are my proposed solutions to problems that we have that I don't hear anyone else offering any other solutions for. It is up to you as a board to decide if you want to rebuild those buildings, patch them up, don't do them, what you want to do with the police headquarters. That is a board decision. In the absence of that board decision, I have said, which I have said at least for the last 6 months, let's see if we can save some money and then go borrow to help fix ourselves, because we have not gotten that public support publicly from us raising or even being encouraged to raise a tax to pay for our infrastructure, which is failing us. If we want to add the police headquarters in this conversation, that is absolutely fine with me. No one wants the police headquarters done more than I do.
Chief does.
Yeah, other than chief and the deputy chief. But other than those two individuals, the plan is to make sure that we do not forget about the police headquarters. It's $100 million at the low end, maybe 70, 80, but whatever amount of money we have to deal with, let's say $75 million. There's no way that I would put a $75 million number in this category. We could not afford that internally. To say, well, let's break up the 75 into 3 payments of 25 and see what that can get us and what the time frame looks like, that's great. But like you said, it will obligate you to payments over how you break it up, and it will also affect your debt capacity and how much you can borrow until more money starts coming into the city, which we believe will happen based on our PFM report in the years in the very near future. So hopefully more money will come into the city to help us with this equation. But right now, what we have to deal with is only cutting our budget in order to fund whatever debt service payments we want to make, because that's all the money that we have. So that's how we got here today. But if the board wants to go in a different direction to do something different, we're totally open to that. But it just sounds like it's, well, why are you doing this and why are you bringing it to us? What is the other solution that someone else is working on that I'm unaware of?
No, and I understand that, and I appreciate that avenue. But as the public commenter stated before, it's been a year and we've had no discussions with the PD about how to get the PD. And I'm not blaming you, I'm blaming the board as not bringing that up to have those discussions. But we need to sit down to say, hey, where are we gonna be? Let's say we do 25 million, say we do 30 million. Where are we gonna be at that phase? Can we, after that, okay, maybe go out for referendum in 28, as Commissioner Stokes said, or whatever, but we scale back, we use the same design, scale back, take out the shell space, we bring, I can't remember the year status, but if we brought it 2035, let's say, to that status, then over time at 2035, then we can bring it up to 2045 with the shell space added on. Yes, it's gonna cost more the longer we wait, I understand that. But it's getting that plan in motion, and how do we do that? That to me is the utmost priority. A lot of the stuff on this list can be funded from different districts and different enterprise funds, this, that, and the other, except for the ones that are earmarked surtax and general fund. Those are the ones that concern me. And that's PD, you know, mostly. So I want to keep the ball rolling on the police department.
Right, yes, sir. And the slide deck that you looked at when we talked about the potential repayment source, the ones that are not general fund related, which are the ones that we're trying to save for, absolutely, those are ones that can come from those financing sources that we would not have to pay for, but it still affects our debt capacity.
Correct.
Overall.
Right.
And when we talk about scaling the police headquarters, the only scaling we've talked about publicly are the 3 different costs of the building based on the years you just outlined. It was 80 million at the low end, I think it was 100 in the middle, and 122 at the far end. There has not been one public conversation about breaking that headquarters up into a smaller amount that would fit into today's conversation before today.
Correct. But since we're having that conversation today, it needs to continue. Like tomorrow, next week, next month, we need to have those conversations.
I totally agree with you. All I'm saying is the tone of content that why is it not there is not fair. because no one has had that conversation. And when we had that conversation most recently with Deputy Chief and Chief, it was because the property and evidence room was becoming a problem. And including it, even as the PBA official said today, including in here, if we can do that, makes total sense. No one's arguing you against that. But the tone is, why didn't you think of putting that in here and breaking it up from 120 million to 25 million and put it in this list? And I think that's not fair to all of us who have been trying to work on this in the time that it was not approved by the people in order to do the project.
And that is not my intent to put blame on why it's not there. We're having that conversation now because it is being talked about. It was brought up in public comment. It's brought up outside on Facebook. You know, it's like, what happened to the PD? You know, why, that was a priority 6 months ago. Where did it go? It's not, I'm not blaming the board. I'm blaming the community as well, because we haven't done our job to follow through. And I apologize to everybody involved that this is on the board. It's not on staff. We should have made more measures to bring those conversations. And I wholeheartedly believe that you guys are doing the best you can with what you got to try and move us forward. But ultimately, it's up to us to come up with those decisions to say, hey, we just can't afford a lot of stuff right now. We don't be able to recognize the unknowns, that we don't know what's coming. So we got to do the best we can with what we got. And that's what I'm saying. Like Vice Mayor said, we may have to give some things up, and we may have to give up some things that the community actually rely on. But I'm sorry, we're in a stress state as well, and that's where we're at as a commission. So I'm out of sand. I actually used up all my sand. Dimitri, Commissioner Petro, you're up before I do second rounds.
This is my first round, but I will not use 10 minutes. I just have a quick question. So yeah, we are dividing disposal before the capture. We don't know if the court will say yes or no. Most likely they'll say yes. Saying that, we do have a limit on the borrowing capacity, which I keep hearing that it's about 25 to 30 million. On the slide, it's about 130.5 million. And on the legislative text, we have different lists. It's 7 items. So my question is, could we narrow down the most crucial projects that are imperative and needed to be done, like we cannot move on as a city? What needs to be done as far as the list of the projects? Because that project, I mean, that slide can go on and on. We can have 20 slides. I would like to have the staff or the city manager to give us the list of the most crucial projects that are required, and that would be in that amount that is 25, 30 million.
That is the slide deck, Commissioner, that's attached to the agenda item. You have $500 million in unfunded CIP in this city. What we proposed to you were the projects that we thought, as you could see them, how they would make sense to get them done based on the different revenue components that we have. And I know our finance director has something else to add to that. But when you look at the projects that we submitted, the rationale for them are, again, as follows. You have 2 buildings that we did not take care of as a city. They have failed us. One of them has been demolished. One of them is failing as we speak. And as we talked about, are we going to patch it up or put up a new building is a decision for you to make. The fire station, I still think I have a way to figure out around that, but it needs to be on the list because my primary way may fall through. You start talking about the other projects on there, then you start talking about different funding sources, but they are listed, and I will stop because our director, Kukarenko, and her team did a great job of ranking the projects and having a full, go ahead, ma'am.
I just want to clarify something. So this wasn't a list that we just randomly put together. We've gone through the process of implementing capital plan this year where we established a committee from different departments. So it was a committee of 10 staff, and we had established criteria. and where they had to go through and rank based on all these different criteria that we've established, so that we could have a list in priority, right? Like, what are our highest priority? And yes, PD headquarters was our highest priority. It's on the list of our capital improvement plan. It's the 5th one on the list, and it's the first one that is unfunded. That is correct.
And didn't we share that list
Yes.
with this body
Yes.
and this board?
Yes, we shared it at our budget workshop. We shared it before, but this year we actually had it ranked. So if you would like that information, we can share it again. And it's all ranked. So what has happened is we looked at that ranked list, and all of the unfunded projects that we believe that are, a significant amount for us that we can't afford, we came up with this list and said, well, if you are interested as a board for us to go and look at borrowing for these projects, and this is when we talk to our special counsel, this is not that when we have this list, we are obligated to borrow. But if we don't have a list and we don't go through court validation process, or we go through court validation process, but the project is not on the list, then we can't add it back. Like, we'll have to go through the process again. So that is why we came up with, well, let's have a list. It does not obligate us to go and borrow. It just gives us opportunity to, in the future, if we would like to, and if we could decide in 5 years that we're interested to borrow for this particular project. We don't have to borrow. We go through the process, and if the project is not on the list, then we can't. Then we'll have to go through the process again. So just sharing a little bit more how we came up with that list and what that process would look like. Hopefully that helps.
Just a follow-up question on the community center building. We did vote to proceed with the patching up, if you will, whatever the phrase we used. So right now we are looking at it again to reconsider our vote. So my question is, what do we do now? I thought we settled that.
Then just, all you have to do, Commissioner, is take it off the list. If you don't want to do a new building and you would rather patch it up and take that pathway, just don't consider it on the list of items you want to borrow for.
Okay.
It's your choice. This is a choice of the board. We're not obligating you to go in a different way, but before, when you made that choice, we didn't have a way to say, well, there's $2 million that we can do it the best way possible either. We just take it off, sir. That's it.
Yeah, it's just, I know it's overdue list and we have to do it. It's rather hard to decide right now on a spur of the moment which projects are more important.
Sir, we are not asking you to decide in the spur of the moment. We're asking you if we are going in the right direction with trying to do something that is very challenging to do externally, let alone internally to this room. If you don't want us to move forward with this option of trying to figure out how to solve this city's problems without the ability to borrow, we will all stop today and we will go do something different. We will figure out a different way. We will take a different pathway, but I don't want you to feel like we're trying to pressure you into making those very important decisions today with just the information that you have in front of you today. That's not what we're asking you to do.
I completely understand that. The problem is we only have 25 to 30 million. That's the problem. So we have to be very selective what's the most crucial, the most important for the city needs.
Yeah. In that list, I don't know if you guys had a chance to look through that list of all the unfunded projects, right? It's a lot. The committee went through 200 projects of just ranking them one by one, and their criteria we had is like about 8 different criteria. Like, is it safety? Is it ready? All these different criteria that we've established. So yeah, it was a very a lot of thought went into this. It was not arbitrarily done. But of course, yes, PD headquarters is on the list, and it is the highest in need, but we can't afford it unless we start breaking it into phases.
And I'll conclude with that. It feels like it's a workshop agenda item rather than regular meeting, because it's very urgent, and it's very needed. But it's just a different environment the way we can discuss freely, and we can, it's almost like we need a different setting, like start fresh at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock instead of being the last item on the agenda list of a regular meeting. But it's just my 2 cents on that. I don't know if we can line up the list of projects as we speak now, because it's I came prepared but not that prepared. I didn't know it's as possible, so I wish we had more time. Frankly speaking, I wish we had more time, and workshop would allow us to do that.
Yeah.
As opposed to a regular meeting.
Yeah, and this is to give us direction to start working on with the legal counsel and our financial advisors. So then we can actually come back with what it would look like. This is like, we don't want to go and start working on this, right? Have PFM look at our financial position and what the debt schedules would look like, start working with legal counsel on the resolution if we don't have a direction on which project we should look at.
Understand. Thank you.
Is that it?
That would be all.
Commissioner Duval.
Thank you, Mayor. As I read the motion that's suggested here, it says, I move to direct staff to work with financial and legal advisors to seek borrowing authority. And then it's for the following projects. We, among us, have just come up with, well, let's do this. Phil says, hey, police department. And I totally agree with him. Our police department has got to be somewhere near the top of our list. As the vice mayor said, Italy Avenue. Boy, when I read about Italy Avenue, man, that place, that's the Disneyland of Southwest Florida. It's great, but as my esteemed vice mayor said, it's an amenity. And when we're talking police department, park, and when I did my one-on-one, I had a list to go by. That list that I'm looking at here is different than the list that's on our instructions for today. So we're at a point of, yeah, there's some things that are on here that are not on here. Like Legacy Trail Connector is on one and not on the other. And we're getting lost into, well, I think this was most important. I think this one's most important. The main question is, are we going to seek this borrowing authority? What is the law going to say in regards to the fact that we have a charter that says we got to go to referendum first? So I don't have an answer here as to which projects should be on it. We all have our own ideas. But the question here to me is, do we want to go instruct our staff to go forward to see if we can legally do this? And then maybe afterwards we come back with what projects we can put on it, or we put just a couple of our totally top priorities on now and see if we get that legal okay. So I'm stuck here. I just don't know where to go. Do we sit and the five of us go along and say, well, I like this one, I like that one, how about we add that? We could be here for a while.
Is that it, Commissioner?
That's it, sir.
All right, Starting round two, Commissioner Stokes.
I had a question. I kind of thought I knew, but then I heard something that threw me for a loop. If you would come back down. Is it my understanding that, well, first of all, you can't, correct me if I'm wrong, you can't go to the court and ask for validation without having something you want to borrow for. So you've
Right.
got to
You
actually
have to have a list.
of projects.
Yes, that is correct.
Initially, when I first spoke, I said, so are we contemplating presenting to the court for validation a potpourri of projects and getting a blessing over them all, knowing full well we can only probably afford to finance a couple of them?
Yes.
Or are we looking at presenting for the court validation process only those specific projects that we have the ability to fund? Because my question originally was, would the court, would the fact that we had 10 projects that were far in excess of anything we could afford, not that affordability has any bearing on the validation process, but would that have impact on the court's validation approval or disapproval versus just presenting to them the projects we could afford? And I get the idea that having to go back and redo the whole process again sounds like it's repetitive and redundant and expensive. But the reality is, if you make a commitment to spend $35 million now, it's not like next budget cycle, we're gonna go borrow another 20, 30 million, because we probably aren't gonna have the ability to fund it and pay for it. So I need to try to understand that.
Yeah, so when we discussed this with special counsel, they explained to us that we have to put a list together, of course, understanding that someone can go and come and challenge us, right, on that list. But if we don't, we're not obligating ourselves to borrow. How the court looks at it, I guess it's Michael who has more knowledge on that and he can share. But if we don't put that on the list, then we can't borrow, right, for those specific
projects. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Director. So the court will not determine whether or not, the court's determination will not be swayed by whether or not we could pay back a particular project or not. The cases, and I have them here, like the necessity and feasibility of improvements to be funded by the bonds is not something they would consider. The possibility that the revenues will be insufficient to meet obligations will not be considered. That was a Supreme Court case from 1954.
What do they consider?
So they will not, so that's not something that will sway the court.
What specifically do they consider? That is the question.
They would consider, I think you called it the financial methodology, and what I would say, term that is, do the financial instruments that the city is potentially obligating itself, something that the city can legally enter into without a referendum. So, for example, let's say JP Morgan Chase was willing to give us a black card with $100 million, a credit card like that. Then we were gonna go do all the projects on the list. Does the city, under our charter and general law, have the ability to accept that credit card from JP Morgan Chase and do $100 million worth of projects? Not if it's a good idea, anything like that.
Thank you. Okay, you cleared that up for me. Now, rolling back a little bit, so people understand. Every one of these projects, I appreciate the process because I do understand what you did. This is no arbitrary fling. This is no, we're putting pressure on anybody. This is something we've been working on for a long, long time. Going back to the first referendum that we put out there that failed, everybody said, you need to analyze your capital improvement list. You need to research. We've been spending a year or more. The time is to act, not to have another workshop and figure out what we want to do, okay? The reality is, every year we wait adds 8 to 10% to the cost of every goddamn project we have here. It's real simple. We don't have to figure out where our priorities lie here. If PD is saying $25 million gets them going, there's 25. I defy anybody in this room, sitting on this dais or anywhere else in this city, to tell me it isn't more important to build this police headquarters than anything else on any other list. If we don't have public safety in this city, we don't have anything. So it's real simple. The first 25 out of 30 million is that. You got another 5 to 7 million maybe we can afford to? I look at this list real simple. 2 million for the Awakened Church. I'd go as far as the 4 million on the Legacy Trail. And the reason behind that is that Legacy Trail connector, coupled with the investment we've already got the money for to fix Mineral Springs, sets the stage for an economic impact in that area of the city that is invaluable to us. So if, to cut to the chase, if I got to pick, 25 for the PD, 4 for the Legacy Trail connector, 2 for the Awakened Church building, there's 31 million. We could afford it on $2.5 million, $2.75 million worth of debt service. It gets these projects going, and it gives us the opportunity to get before the court and find out whether or not we can get this validated. Because if we can't, then hey, we gotta go back and start over again and figure out another way. But we need to do this. We need to do it in a timely fashion. With all due respect to what Commissioner Petro said, the reality is that Price Boulevard happened at 90 million because of exactly that mindset. Let's just talk about it some more, figure it out some more, kick it down the road. It's very clear what we need to do here, in my opinion. Someone tell me what's more important than building this police headquarters. Tell me what's more important than trying to provide for an organization that feeds people who can't feed themselves, who don't have the money to feed themselves. And a Legacy Trail connector, which is a iconic and I mean, there's very few things that have such incredible impact in Southwest Florida as the Legacy Trail. So to me, it's a legacy project. I could go through the others. They are all important. There are pathways to fund all these. Okay, we will find those solutions. But to me, we could talk about this if we want for the next 10 years and nothing will get done. What we need to do is bite the bullet and say, is there anything, do it the other way, is what's more important than this PD? We heard it. 25 million gets this project started. So if we don't agree to do this, if we don't move forward with this, I don't say we're unfunding the police, because after all, we haven't funded this project to begin with, but we're continuing to unfund it. We're continuing not to address the problem, which is here and exists. And you heard it, the rank and file are getting fed up. That building is a disaster. There's mold in it. Every time it rains, it leaks. You can put up all the new ceiling tiles you want, but the truth is, the building's garbage. It needs to be fixed. It needs to be addressed. Same thing with the Awakened Food Pantry building. To me, they're the projects. I don't see, this is not brain, this is, you don't need a freaking 150 IQ to figure this out, so.
Commissioner, you want to buy some more sand?
No, I'm done.
Vice Mayor, you're up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think what part of the challenge is today, and stay where you are, Director. I might have questions for you. We're really trying to do two things simultaneously. One is prioritize what needs to get done with $30 or $35 million. That's one thing. Which is sort of to your point, Commissioner, that we really need to prioritize, and I agree with you. The other thing is identifying a list of projects that we might conceivably want to borrow for in the future, because if I'm understanding things correctly, and I apologize, when you were explaining this, I browned out a little bit, and then Commissioner Stokes asked what I was going to ask. If it's not on the list, forget about it. If it's on the list, we're not obligated. So more is less, if I can flip that around. I have no objection to having things on the list that we know we can't afford. But let's face it, the community is looking to us to be frugal and to be good stewards of their money. And in my opinion, if we put projects on this list that the majority of people who live here say, wow, what do they think this is? A Mad Money vacation account? So I take seriously what's on the list, because we're really, whether we intend to or not, we're communicating to the community how we would as a body approach borrowing. So both conversations are really important to have. The list is very important. Our priorities are very important. So the question today is, do you need us to do both? Do you need us to prioritize what we would put on our funding list, not this list, but what we would fund versus the kinds of things that go on the list? Do you need the list today? Or can we still mull that over and talk about it some more?
We need direction.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
If this is not the list that you all are interested in, maybe there's one project that you are interested in, not the other, we need some direction.
Okay.
And if you are interested for us to come back and talk about the CIP again and just list all the unfunded projects that you can go through one by one and say, this is this is the project that I'm interested in, this is not. We need to do something. We've been talking about this for like 2 years already.
Well, then I'll give some direction, and my fellow commissioners can say, jeepers, you're all wet. Certainly, the police headquarters needs to be on the list, and we heard from Chief that 25 million would be a good solid step forward to starting to alleviate their issues. So priority for borrowing and on the list, in my mind. Creating space for community use for our nonprofits. We really, as a community, rely on our nonprofits to help take care of the people in our community who are unable to totally take care of themselves. So creating some space for them, for me, is a borrowing priority and should be on the list. Whatever form that takes, my desire would be, let's look at the space we have and figure out if it can be repurposed, and I identify 2 buildings that I would look at. Can we satisfy that need without having to build a new building? I'm okay with keeping a community service center on the list, knowing that we might satisfy that need in a way that's different than building. When it comes to borrowing, that would be different from $9 million. It might be repurposing a current building for $4 million. I don't know what the numbers might be. I would keep the driving track, the training complex, the shoot house. I would keep those all on the list. They're not on my borrowing list. The PD headquarters are beginning to move that project is much higher for me. And then also for me, putting amenities on the list. I wouldn't borrow. I said earlier, I would not borrow for an amenity. I think there are a lot of people in this community that if we put amenities on this project list, I'm not one for optics. I'm not terribly sensitive to optics, but I think the optics of that would be terrible, because what we're really saying in this exercise to the community is we're exploring alternative methods for borrowing. And then in the mind of the community, we're putting frivolous things on the list. I'm not willing to do that. Not that a park is frivolous, but it's an amenity, it's a want, it's not a need, and we have so many needs. You probably, oh, you have it going, good.
Of course.
That's how I would approach the list. Yes, let's move forward with securing the funding and getting ready to go to court, but we do need to prioritize what we would borrow money for. I think we should do that today. We know what we need to do. And then if we could get a little more leeway on what else should go on the list. But for me, anything that is not a critical need for this community should not go on that list. It just signals the wrong behavior to the community who's already told us they don't want us to borrow at all. Yeah, that's it.
That's it? You sure?
No.
Okay. All right, I understand both Commissioner Stokes and Vice Mayor, big list, short list. Let me ask, I don't know if the attorney would have any input on this, but would it be more of a detriment having a larger list than a shorter list when we take it to court?
It shouldn't matter either way.
All right, because I don't.
If I could add.
She wants to add in on it.
The legal counsel did warn us, it could be there's a more chance that it could get challenged if the list is.
The longer, yeah,
If
because
it's too long.
the reason I asked that is because if I was to follow Commissioner Stokes, he's got 3 items. If I follow the Vice Mayor, there's like
Longer
about,
list.
well, 8 or 9 items, whatever the case may be. If we were very serious into looking at these options, like let's say Commissioner Stokes' options were the 2 million for Awaken, the connector at War Mill Springs, and the PD, I'm hoping that if we made that decision to follow those 3, that we would have better luck in acquiring those loans because we're more specific on our needs. I'm not worried about 5 years down the line to where if we have to go to court again, create a new list, because we don't know what our needs are gonna be 5 years down the line. If you look at some of the items on this list, like you were talking amenities and stuff like that with Italy Ave, well, down the road, when those activity centers are blooming, wouldn't impact fees possibly fund that area? You know, the fire station out by Star Farm Acres, wouldn't that be funded by impact fees? So there's other avenues to create funding for some of these projects. So if we're gonna whittle it down, I would just like to be very specific on our needs. And if we're going to move forward and give you permission to say, hey, yeah, we would like to borrow the money, it's good. These are the projects we wanna borrow the money for now. We're in the realms on what we can afford. And that's the only optic that the citizenry is going to see, not a wish list of 10, 12 items, because they're gonna put it as fact that we're borrowing $130 million to pay for all these items. I guarantee it. So if we just consolidated and did X, Y, and Z, that's what I would be in favor of doing. So that's all I had. Back to you. Did you want to speak again, Dimitri? Your name was up there.
Yeah, just, for example, Fire Station A, how urgent is this? I mean, if there's a fire and we don't have fire trucks addressing those issues, how do we reconcile his priorities or his list or her list, or how do we do this in this short amount of time? And I'm not kicking the can down the road as a Price Boulevard. There's a clear disregard of a price widening, which took years, and people just, the commissioners, and someone has to take that blame. They just didn't do it. Years, decades. And if I'm asking for a workshop or hinting of a different environment to talk about this. And I'm being accused that I'm kicking the can down the road. I don't think this is appropriate. It's just too condensed to make those important decisions that will affect 20 years. That's the assumption. It says 20 years loan at 4.5% rate. And I don't think we should take it lightly. I know the staff worked behind the scenes, but we as the board, we have not, publicly speaking, we have not, with the exception of the Community Service Center. We did talk about the PD headquarters, and we did the community outreach events and all that stuff. But as relates to the borrowing thing, we have not. And the city manager is correct. This is the first time we are talking about this publicly. Whether it's bad or good, that's a different question. But I think it's premature, and put a list right now, right here, right now, as we speak. I'm not ready to do that. So I want to analyze more. I want to see maybe in the format of a workshop, we can ask the fire chief, how much would you get in assessment or impact fees to fund this fire station, how it's going to be repaid, and stuff like this. It's just, to me, I'm not ready, and I'm not kicking the can down the road. I'm asking for a different format of a discussion where I can feel comfortable making a decision. But if the board wants to proceed, and it's ruled by the majority, I'm fine with that. So this is just my conclusion of my second round, which is not nearly 10 minutes.
City Attorney, I see you've chimed in.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just, one thing I didn't mention, but I want to make sure everybody's clear, is as a condition precedent to validation, the governing body needs to issue either a resolution or ordinance, as the case may be. So you will all have another opportunity. I don't want anyone thinking today, if we pick 1, 2, and 3 projects right now, I'm going to court tomorrow. That's not going to be the process.
No, I understood that process, and this is only giving staff direction to go and pursue it. Let's say, when it comes back, we're still under no obligation to take that as a borrowing aspect. It can come back and say, yes, you can borrow for everything. Then we come together, have a meeting and say, okay, yeah, well, we don't want to do this one because guess what? We got funding for it. So now we just want to do those two, or whatever the case may be. We will have other opportunities to discuss it. I'm fully aware of that. Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah.
Do you need the timer again?
No, I don't. I can go 10 minutes. But, you know, there's not a project on this list that hasn't been on this list for, at least since I got elected, okay? So the thought that there hasn't been time or process by which these projects haven't been talked about, thought about, reviewed, to the extent they haven't, it is the responsibility of those individuals who think there hasn't been. They're the ones who haven't spent the time and the effort and the resources to know. The fire station. That fire station, we are servicing that area of our city right now. But with the proposed development of a project out there that would add another 3,000 to 3,500 homes, we need a fire station. If we needed it today, we already would have had it before us. We need it because that growth is going to necessitate it. And it is a necessary project. The question is who's going to pay for it. My personal opinion is let the developer pay for it. They want to build out there. I don't need 3,600 more single-family homes out there. Let the developer pay for it, okay? As far as the wastewater extension, okay, that's water and sewer expansion. The people on well and septic don't want public water and sewer. Frankly, the only one that does is the state who passed a law that said, yeah, everybody's got to have water and sewer. That's what we got to do. Good, let them pay for it. Not our citizens. Let them pay for it. State wants it, let the state pay. Affluent pump station, okay? Yeah, we got a problem there, okay? But we have an outlet with our relationship in West Villages to solve that problem for less than half of what's proposed here. The track and the training complex, hey, great ideas in a perfect world, in a good environment, we could do it. I think PD be more than happy to get 25 million towards their PD headquarters and back burner these projects, okay? Park operations building, yeah, it's needed, but my question is, how much is it costing us every year for those trailers versus what it would cost? What it cost us, is it costing us $570,000, which is what the annual debt payment would be? Real easy decision. If it's costing us $150,000 a year, hey, we could buy 5 years before we reach the cost, the annual cost of supporting a $7 million building. With all due respect, folks, the citizenry doesn't want more government. It doesn't want more government buildings. What it wants is for us to use what we got more efficiently. Enterprise resource planning, I'm not even going to discuss that one. Italy Avenue Park, absolutely we need it. Should we sell off a ton of land in parks on the west side because we got more than we need to help fund that? Should a special district out there and the developers who develop that east pay for it? Hey, why not? Legacy Trail, I've already stated. So the truth is, these projects we've talked about. This has been before this commission, the last commission, the commission before it. You know, I have listened to a couple of commissioners over the years I've been watching this city talk about, we gotta think about it, we gotta talk about it, we gotta. How about it's our job and what we get paid for to make decisions, hard decisions, that don't make everyone happy, that aren't perfect decisions, that don't solve all the problems, but that move the needle forward. That is what progress is about. So I'm all for it, and I will make a motion when the time is appropriate after public comment to be able to move this process forward and direct staff to move it along so we can go to the next step here, because this ain't rocket science to me. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner, or Vice Mayor. Thank you. No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I said what I need to say. I do want to see on the list we submit to the court, things that we all, in our heart of hearts, would be willing to borrow money for, and not see things on the list that we don't think are right to borrow money for. And I think we can do that today, maybe a preliminary list, and then if we could agree on a preliminary list, and then we all take it upon ourselves in our briefings, go through the rest of the list. If there are other things we would borrow money for, perhaps they should be on the court submittal list. So what I would like to do today, 2 things. Of this list, priority, what are our top priorities, 2 or 3 or whatever we think we could pay for within that $35 million budget that we have? We all know what they are. I think we can do that today. And then agree to a preliminary list to give staff a path forward, knowing that we are all gonna do our homework on our own time and use our briefings, our agenda briefings and our one-on-ones. If we need to sit down with staff and do a deep dive, do it on our own time, and then finalize a list. Get those thoughts to staff, and then when it comes back for the resolution, that we finalize that list. But I, for one, only want to see things on that list that are essential infrastructure projects for the safety and well-being of this community. Now, I know we all have somewhat different definitions of that, but Commissioner Stokes is right. This is why we get paid the big bucks, right? To make these decisions, and we know what's right. We know what 2 or 3 projects we would fund with that money. Let's do it today, and then approve a preliminary list for staff, and then it will come back to us. We'll do some homework in the meantime. If there are things we think should go on, come off, do our work, and then we'll have a hack at it one more time when the resolution comes back. Fair enough? Fair enough?
City Clerk,
Fair enough.
any public comment?
Yes.
Cheryl Cook. This comment is directed to the city attorney. The proposed court-validated borrowing framework is being characterized as procedural. It is not. It establishes the legal foundation for future debt and once validated will be largely insulated from challenge. That makes the legitimacy of the city's claimed authority a threshold issue that must be addressed before any further action is taken. The city is relying on the 2018 charter, which replaced the 1959 charter in its entirety. That sweeping change was presented to voters through a single undefined ballot question with no summary of substantive changes and with materials that limit meaningful public review. There is no clear evidence that long-term borrowing authority or debt mechanisms were fully disclosed, explained, or approved by voters. Compounding this, Bond Counsel has publicly referenced the 1959 charter. This raises a direct and unavoidable question. What is the actual legal source of authority being relied upon? The city cannot selectively rely on a prior charter that was purportedly repealed in full while simultaneously inserting expanded authority under the replacement. Given that you were not involved in the 2018 process, an independent legal determination is required. Identify the exact legal authority for this borrowing framework. State whether that authority derives from the 2018 charter, the 1959 charter, or both. Confirm whether voter approval is required for any future debt issuance. Address whether the 2018 charter adoption process provided legally sufficient notice to any such authority. There is documentation raising serious concerns regarding the validity and transparency of the 2018 charter adoption. If these issues are not addressed now, they will inevitably surface in a more formal setting. Proceedings without resolving these questions expose the city to avoidable legal and financial risk. This issue requires a clear, public, and legally supported answer before any validation process moves forward. Kiwanis Club. Commissioners, last week you celebrated the value of volunteers in the city. If you believe the words you read in the proclamation, you know how important it is for a city to have an army of volunteers to do things for others that they can't do for themselves. Nonprofits in Northport contribute thousands of dollars to the economy by having events that bring in people from other areas. They go to restaurants, buy gas, and shop here after attending events. During emergencies, nonprofits jump in and help feed people, provide shelter and supplies. Nonprofits feed like Awaken Food Pantry feed people. This prevents some from stealing from stores, which reduces police calls. Please, commissioners, if the city builds a community center, the nonprofits will work together, get grants, and can buy all things needed to outfit the center. Please at least sit down with the nonprofits to create a plan. It was done in Charlotte County, and those nonprofits are flourishing as it is nearby community because those commissioners understand the value of those partnerships. While their cultural center is gone, they at least have nonprofits under one roof that will help fill the gap with quality of life issues. According to Florida Nonprofit Alliance, nonprofits in Florida bring in $116 billion through volunteers providing healthcare, education, housing, social service resources, food security, and so much more. Please create a task force so the nonprofits can work with the city on ideas on how they can contribute to a community center. This building can serve as a team Northport headquarters for nonprofits to help respond after a hurricane. While the city works on infrastructure, the nonprofits could work on checking on homebound individuals and storing donations needed after an intense storm like Hurricane Ian. Please understand the value of nonprofits and how they can give back to the city through a partnership. In person, I have Chris Street, followed by Gail West and Tim Doyle.
Good afternoon. I originally had good morning on here, but now we're past it. My name is Chris Street. I'm the past president of the Kiwanis Club of Northport, and I'm the current president of a newly formed Northport Association of Nonprofits. After Hurricane Ian, I began to meet with other nonprofits to see how they fared after the hurricane. We all came to the same conclusion. We were spending money on storage that could be going back into services and tangible items for the residents in need. Almost every city in the state of Florida has a community center for nonprofits and city services combined. My hometown of 10,000 people have over a 35,000 square foot building that nonprofits in the community can go and rent and do things in for Publix. Port Charlotte has a wonderful facility that houses both nonprofits and city services. Nonprofits do not pay to use the building. I invite you to go take a tour because it is phenomenal what that building looks like. We only ask for one thing, a building so we can better serve the citizens of Northport. We can partner with the city to outfit the inside of the building because we can apply for grants similar to what the Boys and Girls Club recently did to reopen their facility. Many events held by these nonprofits are designed just to be able to buy items to give to children in need and the seniors. Please consider building a facility that can be used by the nonprofits during the day and then can be rented out to the public for events at night and weekends. I am more than willing to sit on a committee created by the city to work with nonprofits on the construction of a building. As the city continues to grow, it only makes sense we have a facility to better serve our residents. Please help us make this a reality. I leave you with one final thought. What if there were no nonprofits in this city? No Meals on Wheels, no Backpack Angels, no Loveland, no Art Center, no Awaken Church outreach, Toys for Tots, pet rescues. Could the city cover these services? Maybe, but at what cost? I sincerely hope and pray we never have to find out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Gail West, the volunteer board president for the Northport Art Guild, doing business as the Northport Art Center. Thank you to the city manager, his team, and the city commissioners for recognizing the value and the various needs of nonprofits in Northport. Research confirms that art supports emotional and social growth for children. Art boosts self-confidence, encourages problem solving and critical thinking skills. It also enhances fine motor skills and refines hand-eye coordination. Without the Northport Arts Center, 125 children will not experience the summer art camp education that's been the cornerstone of the nonprofit for over 15 years. They will not receive the unique art training provided by 8 different art instructors. Former youth students will not be able to develop their leadership skills by volunteering at the summer camp. The Art Center had free Saturday classes for youth. They had after-school classes because they know that art builds tomorrow's leaders. But the Art Center was more. It was also a hub for seniors, providing volunteer opportunities and offering group art classes. And in some cases, it became life-changing for those seniors. It helped reduce the isolation that some seniors experience when they move to Florida and their spouse dies. With the support of a former veteran, the Art Center created a Veterans Art Scholarship based on his firsthand experience that art can calm PTSD. Those programs continue at the gallery. The Northport Art Center coordinates art in public places in City Hall, Welland Park Welcome Center, and Lake Michigan Credit Union. The loss of the Northport Art Center has created a void that we try to continue to meet, but it needs to be filled with color and creativity. It's easy to support some nonprofits because we can see the effects. It's not as easy to visualize the mental and emotional health of children and adults. I encourage the entire community to stand up with the city and realize they need to participate. They need to get involved in financially supporting arts education, not just for my grandchildren or someone else's, but for generations. We need to come together, make it a grassroots movement to support financially the arts program, whether it's a dime, a dollar, or 10 cents a month. Together, we can make a difference. for a child or a senior.
I don't really like how you worded it, if you passed it. Money is difficult.
I spoke in this room in favor of the police station the last time I came here when you guys annoyed me. I do think the police station's important. The importance of the police station protects the whole community. That's how you're gonna get new businesses here. That's how I'm gonna be protected. I always ask for better training, is what I ask for, if you go back. Because there's plenty of videos of me talking in this room. My whole problem was how things were handled. So I support the new police station. I do not support the $38 million or so for your water and sewer department. Do you know what my answer is? Sell the water and sewer department to a private company, get out of that business, and build a new police station with the proceeds. That's what I would tell you to do. And then I would pass an ordinance that any developer who comes in here has to pay for their own water and sewer. That's what I would do. But I would get the new police station. And I'm glad that there's finally some people up here understand how bad the Price Boulevard project went down. Because I complained about that years ago in this room. Because I've been in town before Toledo Blade, and I saw Toledo Blade built, right? And then I look at this out here. This is a joke. Money that is cost and everything else. The one thing I will say about the new police station, I would build the entire shell of the building. I would put up the whole building. I just wouldn't fit it out inside. Okay? And what I mean by that, I've seen some of these police stations now after this. The basements are just bunkers for the cops to sit in to look at cameras where I'm driving around the city. We don't have to pay for that in a police station. I want to see the basement of that police station, a bunker for the American citizens to hide in when the drones come here after the country gets blown up tonight. So I fully support the police station. Everything else needs to go.
That's all right.
Thank you. All right. I'll request a motion.
I'd like to make it.
Go ahead.
Okay, I move to direct staff to work with financial and legal advisors to seek borrowing authority for the following capital projects. Police Department headquarters in an amount of $25 million, Legacy Trail Connector in the amount of $4 million, and Awaken Food Pantry in the amount of $2 million. Period.
All right, I have a motion on the floor made by Commissioner Stokes. City Clerk, can you read that back, please?
To direct staff to work with financial and legal advisors to seek borrowing authority for the following capital improvement projects: Police Department headquarters in the amount of $25 million, Legacy Trail Connector in the amount of $4 million, and Awaken Food Pantry in the amount of $2 million.
Okay. That motion was made by Commissioner Stokes. Do I have a second? I'm gonna second it for discussion. And the reason I wanted to discuss that is I understand that these are our, pretty much in everybody's minds, the top 3 priorities. And that's basically what's going to be our list moving forward. But I have no issues with adding one more item to the list, just so that we might be able to, down the road, be able to look at that again because it's on the list. I didn't want a huge list, and I don't want to just be sort of site-specific either. I would like to add on the community center for future possibilities if that were to be warranted after maybe our expenditures of whatever we can borrow for the top 3. This would be our top 4 at this point from this list. So that's what I would be looking at, and I would be willing to make a motion to amend it.
If you make the motion to amend it. I'll second that.
but I have something to discuss.
Okay.
In the spirit of adding things back on the list, knowing that we might not borrow for all of these things, but that they're legitimate projects, I would add the effluent pump station, public safety training center for PD and fire, park maintenance building, and as a stiff-necked nod to Commissioner Stokes, I'd leave the Legacy Trail connector on the list. So that would be my list. Knowing two top priorities for me, now shifting to what would I be willing to borrow money for? The police headquarters and a community building, whether that's a new building, includes or doesn't include the food pantry, refurbished or new, I don't know the answer to that. But we need a place for community/nonprofit use.
It is appropriate for me to, I want you to think about before we make too many amendments to the original motion, is the realization that while optics may be or not may be considered, the reality is that this is a challengeable request to the court. The validation process is not just about the judge, it's also about those that may choose to challenge. And as the mayor said, putting a public safety driving track, a training complex, these other items opens the door for more objections. The belief that, we are creating a master list of items that every chance we get to borrow on, we're gonna borrow on. We have gone 65, 66 years without the ability to borrow. And in recent years, the reason is because the people don't want us to borrow because they don't trust what we're gonna spend their money on. I am not comfortable putting anything on here that isn't supportable to the public at large. And to say, well, here's a potpourri of projects that if and when we ever have the money to borrow, we can go ahead and borrow it. I don't think so. I'm okay with the community center, as the mayor said, because the only way to fund it is through general fund. So I got no problem. I think there's another way to skin that cat, as you have discussed and other people, but it should be on this list because it is critical to the city, as this lady spoke to. I mean, God forbid the city has no nonprofits, but I really have problems adding these other projects. I see no reason to. They have pathways for funding. They are not the highest priorities. Certainly the effluent pump station is a project we have to address, but we have a pathway to address that, not to go out and borrow the money for it. So that's just my comment before people make amendments, but do what you want. I made the original motion, so if
It's
you
still
all-
standing, so.
It's still standing, but you all gotta make some motions if you
Maybe.
want, maybe if you wanna make some amendments, I'm all for it.
I'll make a deal. You take the Legacy Trail connector off, I'll take the training centers and the park maintenance building off.
And
We may have a pathway already for the pump station, but if we borrow, there's no question that has to happen. If we borrow for it, then maybe the money that we already have sort of identified for that can go to the next infrastructure project on the list.
Well,
I'm looking for essential projects.
Well, if you look at Legacy Trail coming from a commissioner who is one of the biggest advocates I know for economic development, the Legacy Trail connector is going to expand. In other words, Legacy Trail is going to go all the way to Fort Myers and Naples. It can go through Mineral Springs, which would help to revitalize that entire area, or it can simply roll right up through Welland Park and then shoot right out and head south to Fort Myers and Naples. If we don't do this, we're gonna miss, and I'm not saying that the city of Northport's gonna come crashing to the ground, but I will tell you, we will lose that ability because they will move right past Northport. I promise you that. I've been told that. That is what's gonna happen if we don't find a way to fund this. So I'm not saying it is the be-all and end-all, but when you look at the reality that that whole unincorporated area is eventually gonna be part of our city. There is no doubt about it. We service it now. It's coming our way. Look at what fixing Mineral Springs and creating a connector for Legacy Trail would mean to that area of our city. It would become an economic juggernaut because it would spill right up Ortiz onto 41. That's commercial business, that's tremendous tax revenue and growth for our city, and would bring businesses that everybody's looking to see. So that's why I say it. The other projects have pathways. I don't know how to fund this one. That's what I'm looking at when it comes to borrowing. The whole idea of this process, this exercise was, what are not the most important projects in the entire city, but which of the most important projects in the city that don't have other good pathways that would lend itself to doing a COPS offering. That's the way I saw this, so that's why I picked these three. I don't say that any of the others aren't absolutely important and shouldn't be considered to be funded in some way, shape, or form. I just think we have to be very selective what we put before the court, because it's not just the judge who's gonna judge us, it's everyone who's gonna judge us. And the degree of challenge we get from the community is gonna be determined based on how thoughtful these couple of projects are. So I appreciate that, it'd be nice to have a bucket to pull from as we have the ability to borrow, but I think we need to be very focused and selective for the same reason why, in my opinion, we made a bloody mistake putting 5 referendum items on a referendum, okay? You put them on what you want to get passed, and then you spend all your resources and time and efforts trying to get it passed. Thank you, Mayor. Anyway.
If I may, I'm really tired of hearing that Warm Mineral Springs is an economic driver. This commission, all 5 of us, are considering a conservation easement on the 60 acres. Bupkis money will come out of that. It will cost us money. Where the development will happen is Ortiz Boulevard. It's in the county. So we're spending taxpayer money to benefit conservation and the county. And yeah, at some point, Commissioner, Ortiz will be annexed in. We have no plan for it. We don't have the money to bring utilities down that street. It's, I'll be kind, aspirational. And to spend $4 million today with the kind of needs we have today to fund, and I'm all about economic development. Those of you who know me know that is a fact. To spend $4 million today on something that is aspirational, and this commission, with all due respect, has demonstrated no backbone to make that property an economic driver. I'm sorry, I'm not there. Next year, 2 years, 3 years from now, we'll figure out how to fund that. Not today with the needs in front of us today. So again, I take it off the list.
Then I'll make a deal. Take that off the list and keep everything else off the list and just put the PD building on there, put the Awakened Food Pantry on there for the 2 million, and put the Community Service Center back on, and roll with those 3. And I feel good about standing up in front of any citizen in this city and saying, if I was gonna spend borrowed money that I gotta pay back, I will be happy to do it on behalf of public safety and behalf of all those nonprofits that work so bloody hard to support our community in areas that city government cannot do. So I'll be okay with that.
Okay, I'd buy that.
All right,
Let's make a deal.
let's make a deal.
I'm gonna make an amendment then. I'd like to amend by taking the Warm Mill Springs connector piece off of the list and adding the community center piece onto the list.
Okay.
Go ahead, take over.
Yeah, I need some clarity, city clerk. So what projects are left on the list?
It will be the police headquarters, the Awaken Food Pantry, and if the amendment passes, it will be Community Service Center.
What you just made a deal on.
Yes, okay. So I just wanted to make sure.
Two of those projects are the same thing. The Awaken Food Pantry is in the Community Service Center.
They may or may not be.
The other, no, they currently are now. If you go with the way you just said it, they are currently the same thing. The Community Service Center is where the Awaken Food Pantry operates out of. They are the current tenant. The Dallas White Park Cultural Building is the building that is no longer there, that the former tenant was the Art Center. So just make sure that you got two buildings there and what they're currently and formerly were used for most previously.
Okay, rename the community center to whatever he just said.
Well,
The
no.
Dallas White.
Right, if you're,
No.
right, correct. Just
Yeah.
make sure you're either talking about two buildings or
Well,
one
the
building.
community service center that you've got on this project list is $9 million. It includes
That is-
Awaken Food Pantry, and it includes whatever buildings
The
created
nonprofit
for
building.
nonprofits, right?
The $9 million contains two buildings.
Yes.
The Community Service Center is one building. The other building is Dallas White Park Cultural Building. That is the larger part of the $9 million. That is the $7 million price tag. The $2 million was for the destruction and rebuilding of the Community Service Center, which I thought I heard you say, as a board, you'd rather patch up what we have for $600,000, $700,000 as opposed to build a new building.
I think we got past that, sir.
I'm just making sure that you understand what you're voting on. There are two buildings for $9 million.
Right.
Correct, that's what we
got
were
it.
looking at, but we probably stated it wrong.
So based off of what city manager said, it would then just be, we would want the amendment to remove Legacy Trail and Awaken Food Pantry and just add Community Service Center.
Right.
And that would
PD
cover
and
both
Community
of
Service
those?
Center. And the community service center includes both buildings.
The Community
It
Service
includes the
Center,
Awaken Food Pantry,
Yeah.
and it includes a building for the nonprofits. That's what it includes. That's what's in the 9 million.
Well, I'm
One would
also
be in
hearing
that.
cultural center, and that certainly wasn't.
what,
They just named it
The
that.
cultural
They just
center
gave it
would
that-
be part
they
of
just
that
gave it that
community
name.
All
building.
right, hold on.
They just gave it that name.
I'm sorry, you're still in charge. You yell at them.
what you said was correct, Madam Clerk, as far as what's included. I just want to make sure we say that what he's quoting off of our slide should have had two separate buildings on it. The same price, which is $9 million, contains two buildings. But if you say just the community service building, and you do not say the other building in Dallas White Park, I don't want it to be construed that you are excluding that building, which I clearly hear you including, because you're talking about $9 million. So can we please just say community service
Center
center?
and Dallas White Park?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
You wanna amend that amendment, city clerk?
Okay, to remove the Legacy Trail connection to Warm Mineral Springs in the amount of $4 million and Awaken Food Pantry in the amount of $2 million and add Community Service Center and Dallas White Park.
Good with that, city manager now?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
All right,
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment?
you gotta state that we have a motion, darling. I know it's been a while.
It has been a while.
Well, we have an amendment, then we have a motion.
Yeah, so let's vote on the amendment.
Correct?
Yes.
Let's
So
vote.
you ready to vote?
I'm ready. Okay, what happened? You gotta announce it now.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I have the.
Yeah, it's in your hand.
Okay, the amendment passed 4-1 with Commissioner Petro dissenting. Do you want to speak to that, Commissioner?
reasons stated earlier, and we really turned this part of the meeting into a workshop.
Okay, let's vote on the original.
Yeah, yeah.
Original as
And now
amended.
let's vote on the original motion. Would you repeat that for us, City Clerk?
As amended.
As amended, thank you.
To direct staff to work with financial and legal advisors to seek borrowing authority for the following capital projects: police headquarters in the amount of $25 million and the Community Service Center and Dallas White Park.
Community center, or whatever.
Community Service Center.
Yep, okay.
And the Dallas White
Dallas
Park
White Park.
Center. If there's anything more to that, if not, let's vote.
I already voted.
And the motion as amended passed 4-1 with Commissioner Petro dissenting. Reason stated.
Stated earlier, and I just want to clarify that I'm in full support of the police department.
Give me that back. Alright. Y'all good with that, city manager? Because we're moving on to bigger and brighter pastures.
Please.
City clerk?
Tim Doyle.
Oh, who knows what's gonna be like tomorrow in the world? You guys talked about a lot of things, spending money. I was wondering how you're doing on any of the letters. Federal government wants to spend $1.5 trillion on defense. You had people in this room last week that want to move defense contractors to this city to do work, right? This is the final one, right? That's what I'm saying. So my whole point is, I think you guys should be reaching out to your officials higher than you in the federal government, asking them for money. Y'all can sit here and just stare into space. But it's the truth, $1.5 trillion. Last time they spent $1 trillion, I got, a cable company down my road? Across the whole entire United States, they put that cable company pretty much. And they spent $1 trillion. I'm asking for some sirens around your, what do we have, a Coast Guard station? And again, that station is on every map of every foreigner who wants to do something to us. It's a federal facility. It's a place where our military are. Coast Guard protects our country. The reason why the Coast Guard's up the river in Northport is for protection. You don't put those stations right on the intercoastal or right on the border. You put them up the river for protection. At least that's the way I see it, the way it was done. So I don't see how you guys can sit here and look at me and say you shouldn't send a letter to Scott and those guys and Trump who are causing this situation, just asking them for a couple bucks to put up an air raid siren in our community. I grew up in a community with air raid sirens. My whole adult life, I had an air raid siren by my house, although it was used for a nuclear power plant to go off in case it blew up. So these things are all over the country. These things are in Florida. Some people use them for what? Tsunamis, right? Hurricanes, flooding, all kinds of things. Tornadoes. They blow up the power supply. Is your phone going to work? They start jamming the airwaves. Is your phone going to work? I got news for you, probably not. Power goes out. Everybody around here is just going to be like, what do I do? What do I do? The drones start coming in, blowing up places. Where do they go? They don't even got a basement to go in. I've asked you several times, does this city have a list of bomb shelters? Is it posted on this building? Growing up in the communities I lived, there was fallout shelters in every community, and they were posted on the building. The problem is, it's 1959 up there. All that stuff was pretty much done before 1959. But when you guys came, you didn't think that was the right thing to do. But you got that International Coastal Waterway, one of the most important highways in this country that nobody knows about. And don't think that's not being watched by other people right now. is this entire country is under surveillance, not just by the police departments, but by all the satellites. So we're getting tired of this. And remember, all those data centers in Virginia that you guys talked about are just spy centers. That's why they're in Virginia.
Thank you. Commissioner Communications, Commissioner Petro.
For me.
Vice Mayor.
I'll submit a list for attachment to the next agenda, but I do want to mention, I really want to give a shout out to Public Works and the
Audio.
folks- I really want to give a shout out to Public Works and the folks working on the expansion of Price Boulevard and their efforts to keep the traffic flowing. You really have to know what you're doing. It would be fun to drive a motorcycle on Price these days with all of the twists and turns, but I really, really appreciate that effort to keep the traffic moving. So thank you. That's it.
All right, I got nothing. Commissioner Stokes.
Yeah, just want to remind everybody, 6 o'clock tonight, Holly's Hope Vaping, Morgan Center, be there. That's something worth going to. Other than that.
School board candidate forum.
What's that?
School board candidate forum.
Yeah, school board candidate forum.
Put on by the teens.
You got it. Other than that, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Commissioner Duval.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Last week I attended my Community Action Agency board meeting in Sarasota. I and my fellow commissioners were at the retirement celebration for Detective Chippendale. And I also spent a morning working with Awaken Food Pantry, handing out food. That's it. Thank you.
All right, City Clerk, you got anything? How come? City Manager?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney?
Nothing, sir.
All righty then, it's 1:43 and I adjourn this meeting. Have a
While you're watching me run away from this hurricane, you could be signing up for emergency alerts. Sign up at alertsarasotacounty.com today!
Welcome to the brand new Northport Podcast Network. We're so excited